This conference will now be recorded.
Testing, 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 testing.
No, it's not doing it. That's it. Testing, testing.
Take the one from the podium if you want. Yeah.
Or you can borrow this one, Bill, when.
Okay, it's now 6:37, and I'm going to call this council meeting to order, this regular council meeting. The first thing on the agenda is the invocation by Nathan Sweet, Surfside Baptist Church.
Good evening. Let's pray together. Father God, your word in the Bible tells us that this is the day that you have made, and so we will rejoice and be glad in it. God, we thank you for this beautiful place that we are blessed to call home. Lord, we thank you for the beautiful ocean and the creation that is all around us. And as I see those things, I praise you for your awesome creation is just evidence of the handiwork of your hand all around us. But tonight, I want to pray for our leaders. Lord, your word tells us that you establish each one of them and in their position, and that therefore we should honor and respect them and as well as pray for them. So, God, for each of our leaders here tonight, I want to pray and lift each one of them before your throne. God, you know their hearts, you know their desires. Tonight, I would pray that you would give them wisdom, give them love for one another in this community, and give them strength. Lord, I also even pray over their families that you would watch over them as well. But God, I pray more than anything that you would help them to love you and for you to guide them. But God, especially during this season of great uncertainty, we ask that you would just give our leaders wisdom to know how to best care for and protect the members of our community. But God, more than anything, I thank you for the new life that I have in Jesus and the hope that you offer to each one of us tonight. Jesus, I love you, and it's in your name that I pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next. You got any volume for me? Okay, next is the public hearing on ordinance 210933, chapter 17, article 7, landscape and tree protection, division to tree protection. And I believe Ms. Coleman, you were going to talk on that?
Well, this was for the public hearing.
Yes,
Think we're
yes,
gonna Put that off or,
yes,
oh, just to explain what's happened.
right, if you would, that way.
Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Okay, can everybody hear me all right? It was pointed out when I walked in, or when someone walked into the building tonight, that the ordinance does require the public hearing to be held at the planning commission level. So we will discuss the ordinance later, but there will be a planning commission public hearing scheduled to hear it later, so.
But this public hearing is called to order any member of the public.
They can still, you can still, yeah, if you would like to give input, but it's not covering the required public hearing. No.
Can you give a synopsis of the change?
Yes, I will. I mean, do you want me to go ahead and address those things now?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay, let me get right over here.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, we can, since we're going to do a public hearing at the planning commission meeting, what we have been given as the recommendation from the planning commission meeting basically comes back to, they took 3 months and gave us 4 typos to correct. They missed a major opportunity to totally rewrite this ordinance and make sense. Because there's so many conflicts in here that one place we say the minimum tree diameter has to be 3 inches. Other places it averages 8 to 5 inches, but you know, it's really, and the 8 inches is what triggers things. We've got one place that says minimum number of trees have to be this, but if you have more than that, you still can't cut any of your trees down. So I think we missed a major opportunity to really engage with the stormwater committee and the floodplain managers and everything else to look at this ordinance as a whole and figure out what makes sense for the residents and the businesses based on what their lot size is. We've got certain lots out there that once they implement their stormwater plan that's required, they don't have room to build, to put that many trees or to retain that many trees. So I think we've missed a great opportunity in at least what we've been given as the revised ordinance.
Okay. Ms. Coleman, do you have a response to that or?
Sure. We spent a lot of time going through the archives for this town of Surfside. We went through every iteration of tree ordinances that were on the books. We compared ordinances all over the Southeast, especially in South Carolina, in coastal towns, in resort towns, in towns that had similar lot sizes available to them, and did comparison studies on those. What it came down to was the Planning Commission felt like the best ordinance that they had produced and the best ordinance they could produce was the version that was forwarded to council in 2017 that was pared down at second reading. And some of the confusion that Councilwoman Keating was speaking of were conflicts because of the changes that occurred then. So we added those back in and added some clarifying language. But I think there's a Planning Commission member here. I don't know if they are willing to speak, but this was gone over and over and over. And again, that was their decision. I'm doing their bidding, so this is what that was forwarded to you with a recommendation for approval.
Okay, thank you. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to forego the public hearing today. We're going
Well,
to,
we did have a public comment. Did you want to come up and make a comment?
well, that's the next thing on the agenda.
Well, for the public hearing, she can make comments.
My name is Carol Lucas, 524 Cypress Drive. The 2017 meetings, tree ordinance you were talking about, I went to all the committee meetings. And the ordinance that they took to council was stronger than what it came out of council with. That's why we now have, instead of hardwood trees on properties being built, we now have palm trees. A beautiful house was just built next door to me. Instead of they took down every tree in the lot, pulled them up by the roots, and it was woods, and then left one lonely pine up by the telephone pole, almost on the street. They came back in and put in 4 palm trees. 2 of them are already dead. I asked the builder why he didn't put in hardwoods, and he said they cost too much, and we don't have to. I said, hold it, I was at those meetings. They said they changed them. They changed
Well,
it
and
to
that's not
hardwoods,
correct.
And we are now allowed to put in palm trees. Palm trees are now counted as the 5 trees you need to have on your lot.
The current ordinance does not include allowing palm trees. Palm trees.
So that's what's on.
Because what the current ordinance reads is
I don't
your,
think we're allowed to have a dialogue. I'm just speaking,
You're correct. You are not.
yes.
then what's
I'm
the
just
point of a
making my
public
point.
hearing?
Are you always this rude?
You're gotta be kidding.
Come on, I'm just trying to make a point. We had a good working group in 2017. I wasn't on it. Can't take credit for it. But then it got diminished. Please do not do that again. These palm trees are beautiful, but we don't live in Florida. We need hardwoods to suck up the water out of the ground. Mr. Dare knows I'm on the stormwater committee. And the difference between a hardwood tree and a palm tree and its ability to absorb water during these heavy storms is significant. So please put the hardwood trees back in.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Can I be heard?
Yes.
Lynn Livesey, 520 10th Avenue South. I haven't been to council for a while. I've watched online a little bit, but I did want to speak to the fact that I'm glad you corrected the public hearing thing because no one knew we were having a public hearing tonight, and there's a lot of people who have a passion about the trees. So the public hearing coming through planning and zoning is a good idea. I sat on planning and zoning for almost 9 years, and it's been a while. None of you really know me. But it's a baby of mine. I watch it. I see things happen all the time. You know, we label some of our trees as specimens. Some are landmarks and some are protected. We have charts in the ordinance for that. But what we need to be aware of is the public is interested in the tree ordinances. And as said earlier, we are supposed to be good stewards of what we are given. And our town is a Tree City USA, supposedly. It has achieved and has strived for that in the past, but the ordinance should take that into consideration. I think also that really stormwater and counts have nothing to do really with the trees that are left. And I wrote a few notes here and I did read the ordinance. Some of it I was familiar with. It wasn't changed that much, and I'm glad some of the things were put back. But I must agree with the charts. Hardwoods should be replaced with hardwoods. You can't take down a live oak and put in even a soft oak or a soft wood tree. You just shouldn't. That's part of our stewardship that we need to take care of in our community. Those charts are in there for a reason. It points you in the right direction. I know people talk about pines, but the longleaf pine is still a protected tree in this community. And it comments about common trees. You can replace this or that with common trees in this ordinance. What is a common tree? There's a chart in there that lists all the trees that are acceptable to be replaced on the lots. And it should be taken seriously, and I don't think any compromises should be made by inspectors or the mitigation. That has been a pet peeve of mine for years, the mitigation. You go in and you take out a 100-year-old live oak and you pay the town a pittance for the value of that tree. It costs nearly $400, $500 to put a small live oak back in. And we're cutting them down because someone wants to build a house a certain way. Well, we need to check the footprint. And that's another issue with our few lots that are left and not developed. We need to see the footprint before we go in and clear cut. They'll go in and clear cut a lot, maybe leave some edging. And around here, yeah, sure, we got pines. That's just indigenous to the area. And they do suck up some, and the insurance companies will tell you, cut it down, it's going to fall on your house. That's not true, but the hardwoods, we still have lovely hardwoods. You have to go in and see a footprint and know what you're building there. And they are putting palms in, but I do know the new ordinance does not count palms in the total count for the lot. You can put it in if you want one. You can, it's pretty, but you're supposed to have 5 in a certain lot size. And I don't think we should consider putting trees back in just because of stormwater and the size of the lot. I will disagree with that. And everyone should read the charts that are in the ordinance. And thank you for writing the ordinance as it is. A lot of it's still very familiar to me. Do I have a time limit? Okay, I'm preaching to the choir, I hope. But anyway, let's see what there's. The clear cutting before you see a footprint and the mitigation. And I think that the ordinance is in pretty good shape. And please publicize the public. I came here because I thought this was our only chance to talk about the public hearing. So thank you all for listening.
All right, thank you.
Hello. My quick statement is if we're going to have a,
Your name and address.
okay, Patricia Magliette, 104 Harbor Lights Drive. With this tree ordinance that we're going to have, a lot of people in town do not have computers. I think if this is an important issue for our tree loving town, we need to have this ordinance when it's done left at City Hall so that anybody who wants to get a clearer understanding of this can go to City Hall and just pick up the entire ordinance printed out. Reason I say this, I am the glad owner of a live oak tree. I don't exactly know when I'm allowed to trim, how much I'm allowed to trim. I don't know what happens if it comes down and I need to replace it. I don't know if I have to replace it with a tree just as big, so I think we all need to have this in easy printout form at the actual desk of town hall so that we can all read it, learn it, and plan our yards better. Because it is important to have these good trees to drink up water, because we are a seacoast town. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Coleman, when is the next planning commission meeting?
I'm sorry. The next one we could advertise for would probably be September unless we call a special meeting, because the regularly scheduled August meeting, I don't think we can meet the deadline for the ad at this point, but I'll check and see where we stand with that.
So, but you will publicize that and we will put that in
Absolutely.
the thing.
And I can make copies and have them available. And if anybody wants anything emailed, then Ms. Medina has my email address. They're welcome to email me. I'll send anything else out that they need.
Okay, so the residents can look forward to participating in the public hearing at the planning commission level.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The next thing is the motions relating to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to move that we move the presentation for my brother-in-law, Tom Anderson, to first in the agenda. It's an item D, and it's not only a revised agenda, but to move it to the first agenda. We're good.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
One second.
Okay, so the question is that we're going to take in communications number 7, we're going to take D, the memorial plaque for Assistant Chief Thomas Anderson by Larry Carter, and we're going to move that into the A position and move everything down one. Okay. Is there any discussion before we do that?
No, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It was on the old one.
I gave the mayor the one that I had. It's there. Go online, then it's online, there.
Okay, are there any other motions of the agenda?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to add an item under businesses, section 8. And that is a discussion and vote to make the intersection at Surfside Drive and Ocean Boulevard a three-way stop.
All right,
I
so-
second it.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Holder. And that would be put into that would be F in business.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So those are the two changes we're making to the agenda. The next thing is the approval of minutes for June 22nd and also July 6th. June 22nd being a regular meeting, July 6th being a special meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for regular meeting June 22nd, 2021, and also the special meeting held on July 6th, 2021.
Second.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Any discussion before we vote on it? Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Holder,
Aye.
Keating,
Yes.
Pellegrino,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
and myself is yes. So the vote's 6-0. The next thing is the public comments. So anybody, you have 5 minutes to speak, and anybody that wants to speak on the agenda items, please step forward.
Hello, good evening, Sir Mayor and Town Council members. My name is Cheryl DeFalco. I live at 1015 North Dogwood Drive. It's my daughter April. We own DeFalco's Automotive and Towing on Business Highway 17. We have some concerns over the proposed changes to the ordinance for the wrecker and tow services in Chapter 9. I did email everyone a letter with my concerns. I don't know if you received them. Being a resident for 15 years and a business owner, I was hoping some of my elected officials would have responded. But I will reiterate my concerns. It seems that my understanding is that the changes to the towing and wrecker ordinance be that any business outside of town limits up to 5 miles can apply to be on the police wrecker rotation and also have a storage lot up to 7 miles outside the town limits. That is a concern in itself, as well as I believe the new ordinance is reading that these companies do not need to obtain a Surfside Beach business license. I have a lot of concerns with that. My business in town pays a large fee for our business license every year. I'm a top taxpayer in town, pay many taxes to the town as well. And I don't understand why we would allow outside companies to come in, not have to get a business license, not to have to pay any fees to the town, basically come in, reap the rewards and, leave without adding anything to our town. I feel our residents, our businesses, we add a lot to the town. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Brian Ford. He's the owner of Coastal Collision, who has also been in town for, I believe, 27 years. We give back to the town, not only in taxes, but personally. We have a good reputation with the police departments, fire departments, and other organizations.
And the second part is the effects on the police department and the public roadways.
As you guys know, so it's us, DeFalco's, and Coastal Collision. We are both the primary responders for the police department. We pride ourselves in getting there within 10 to 15 minutes of a breakdown, which saves our police department's lives on the highway, as well as your residents who happen to be in an accident or broken down. If you are going to open it up to 5 to 7, and in the previous meeting, I think Councilman Keating mentioned up to 10 miles, which I'm not sure if that was corrected or not. That would mean that your police department lives are going to be on the road for an even longer amount of time, waiting for an estimated time of arrival when it's just not necessary. And then the second part also brings in concern if you have an elderly woman who breaks down and, the rotation goes on to someone, let's say 7 to 10 miles outside of our town, she might not want to go get her vehicle out of their storage impound lot that is outside of our town limits, especially if it's a golf cart. How are they going to get that back into our town? Because we do a lot of golf cart shows as well for the police. So that was another major concern for the police department.
Yeah, and I know that you thought that maybe there's only one other tow company that could meet these qualifications, but there are many more. There are plenty of private, small, independent repair shops, body shops that have one tow truck that, will try to get on because, hey, they can come in and do tows and not give anything back to the town. Also, opening that up that far out, people can just go buy some old junky tow trucks and come and represent the town in that. And, all our employees are background checked, significantly trained.
As well as Coastal Collision.
We're very professional, and I think you're just inviting outsiders into our town to reap the benefits and not give anything back, affecting the police department and our local community members.
And then to kind of top on that, I think it was mentioned that most of the other ordinances that were adjusted or changed, those are going to a public hearing, whereas this one was not set to be a public hearing. So it kind of makes it, okay, finishing up, it kind of makes us feel that, this is kind of being pushed. I don't know if there's some, other personal agenda. We have word that others want to open up towing companies, which is fine, but do it in our town, pay your business license fees just as we are, and, do it to make sure everyone has a better life in Surfside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Harry Coleman, 10th Avenue North. I also like to speak about the tow companies. I don't have a dog in this fight yet, unless, of course, I get into an accident. I don't understand why. Why are we hiring or looking for outside tow companies? Now, of course, if they're not doing the job correctly, they're not available, I get it. But if they are, why? Do we need more? If we do, why? Just doesn't make any sense to me. As I was a police officer for 27 years, and about 15 of them in the highway patrol. And I know that if you have an accident, the longer you keep an accident on the scene, you're going to have more accidents and more people getting hurt. You have two tow companies. They're about centrally located. They're just right off Surfside Drive. And they get to the job quickly. You have somebody 5 miles out. And you have say it's on a Saturday, 5 miles out. You ever go down 544? It's going to take them 40, 45 minutes just to get from business to the bypass. There isn't a lot of ways in here. If they're not doing a good job, I can understand it. But if they're doing their job, why do we need a third? Unless, of course, they're not available. That's another issue. Another thing is, if they're not required to get a Surfside Beach business license, and I'm not sure if that's true or not, we're losing money. We have so much money that we don't need a little extra dollars. And we always promote buy locally, use local. And why are we going to use somebody maybe from Sockasty? Doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. Also, I tried to look it up, I couldn't find it. because they said red line and everything, I couldn't. So I looked up the ordinance, and it says something about if they're not in Surfside Beach, they have to have a impound 5 miles away, and another place it says it has to be within 7 miles away. So which one is it? And say if I get in an accident, I need to go, I gotta go 7 miles to get stuff out of my car? You get your golf cart towed? How are you gonna get that back? You're gonna have to have another tow you back? And so there's a lot of things here. I don't think it's really been thought out of it well. Also, you have 2 Bs on your business. You have an ordinance and a rally in the alley. There's 2 Bs. You know that? Sorry?
Typographical error.
No, I know, but you can't have 2 Bs. Someone should have amended it. I think that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have 2 Bs.
I might as well follow up my husband, just what Beth Bowman, 10th Avenue North. With the 2 Bs, one of them should have been amended anyway. You can't do the first reading of the tree ordinance without the public hearing. And with the public hearing, I don't think a lot of people understand. It's not a matter of should it be changed, change all the ordinances you want. That's all well and good. But when you're changing your ordinances, you have to follow your own ordinances. And it's right in your ordinance that, and shall means mandatory in your ordinance, that the planning commission holds it. So just so clarified for everybody. And it's not against anybody that wants to change the ordinance. It really isn't. It is about, just like Ms. Livesay stated, it's important to a lot of people. And if something's important to the residents, they need to have the public hearings. And you don't want people saying you did something wrong anyway. So I would just go with public hearings when you can. And the other thing was with the Falco's Automotive, you all know I run a nonprofit in this town that's been here for over 35 years. They're probably one of the easiest people to back me up when I have anything. I could just walk in there and it's just like, what do you need? Whether it be for kids in the schools, kids in our town, I'm low on soup, whatever it is. I don't even have to, there's no question about it. And we have to remember that with our businesses. I know there's a lot of animosity with businesses. We want our businesses to want to be here, all of them. And when they're doing a good job, we should be rewarding them for taking care of each and every one of us. So I have a problem too with those, a lot of people, my clients are older people, they don't have vehicles. If their cart gets towed and it's going 7 miles away, I don't know how they're going to get it. I really don't. The small town feel of Surfside is what brings everybody here. I'm pretty sure everybody comes here for that feel, and they're part of this small town for a long time. I'd like to see that stay. So, and the other thing, I know I have way too many, the stormwater fee. It's just, it gets underneath my craw. The stormwater fee, everybody in this town should pay it. I have a nonprofit. We made a mistake. We got a late fee. We paid our fee. There's no excuse for it. Everybody should pay it. I shouldn't be exempt because I'm a nonprofit and not have to pay a fee. So we pay it. But we did make the same mistake that other places made. We didn't realize we had 2 units. We paid one, not the other. The next year they said, now you have a fee. Okay, just pay it. You made the mistake, pay your fee. But once you guys vote on something, I thought it was you come in here, you present what you got, you take your vote, and it's either you win, you lose, whatever. It passes, it fails. You all shake hands, everybody leaves the building, and you move along. Why are we bringing back stormwater fee time and time again? Please don't reward people that don't follow the rules. And don't give us our money back just to give them all back. No. We don't want ours back. We want the stormwater fee to go where it deserves, and they should too. Thank you.
Judy Henyon, 11th Avenue North. I have a number of issues. First, I'd like to address the stormwater fee because I seem to remember it's already been before council multiple times. It's already been voted down several times with regard to the refunding of the fees that were unpaid. Under Robert's rules, I think the prevailing side is the only side that can bring it back, and it has to be brought back the next meeting I don't think it was on the agenda last meeting, so why is it on the agenda tonight? Accept defeat and move on. Second thing, the remediation of our buildings. I think what we're faced here with is a math problem. We're looking at replacing or repairing. A math problem, it appears to be a very, very simple math problem. If we're going to tear these buildings down, then we're going to have to be looking at asbestos removal and a number of other hazardous waste dispensation issues. Plus, I think it's going to be to the tune of probably somewhere around 5 million. But if you can purchase a building across the street and go ahead and comply with new FEMA regulations coming down the pike within the next year and a half, 2 years, why would you repair a building and spend more money than it would cost you to move? It makes no sense. And I'm sure we've got enough common sense up there among you to make the right decision on that one. Second, another thing is the Civics Plus website. I have searched the website to find the RFP to see what was requested. I haven't found an RFP. There needs to be an RFP because when you start looking at IT, there are so many different issues that need to be addressed with building a website. In this day and age, we especially need to be concerned about the safety and security. So it needs to be designed so that our data is secure. You see, it's our data you're putting on the website. It's not your data, it's our data. If you contract it with a company that uploads it on their server, they own it. If they decide to go out of business and we don't have access to it, how do we access it? If they get hacked, who pays? Who pays for it? It's probably going to be us, but you're paying them. I would really love to see an RFP go up and some bids be taken with some specifications, but that's just me. As far as towing goes, I have had to have service here in this town, and I can't praise DeFalco's enough. I have never had somebody come to my aid so quickly. And when you're in the middle of 544 in beach traffic, and you need somebody to come get your tire changed, and AAA calls them and they're there in a skinny minute, I don't know why we'd want to go anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Stamey, 715 Cedar Drive North. There was a comment. I think that it's a great idea to keep the DeFalcos in our city. I don't think you should be reaching out to other places to not giving them no business license or anything for our town. That you, as I've told you before, you support the businesses who are in town. You don't go outside of town looking for business. If they want to come to town and pay business license and buy a place here, great. I'm all for it. But the other thing is this deal with this building, the building above us, and y'all talking about buying a building across the road that's not big enough to start with for what you need. So we're going to go over there, buy this building, add another $1 million to that to buy some land, to build a building for y'all and the courts to have over there, which there's not enough land over there to start with, because once you put a parking lot, it's gone. You're gonna have to clean up this mess. It don't matter what y'all do. If you buy across the road, if you stay here or whatever, you're gonna spend that money here. Why don't we look to the future of this town and build something on this land that we can use 15 to 20 years or 50 years down the road? You're starting out with a building that's 25 years old that it ain't big enough. Now, y'all done admitted it ain't big enough for what we need, but you want to run over there and spend $2 million on something that it ain't going to work for us in another 20 years. Why not go ahead and and build something here, because this is where town hall's at now. It's been here for a long time, and a lot of people like it. And you were to ask the public, most of the public, I've not talked to none of them, but they ought to be involved in what y'all do with this property, what you build here, or if you're going to move across the road. You're starting out with a 25-year-old building to start with, where in 50 years from now, that's going to be a 75-year-old building that we could already have a new one here big enough to take care of what this town needs in another 50 years. So I'd be looking at all of that too when y'all looking at buying across the road. Thanks.
We don't have to say who we are again, do we? Lynn Livesey, 520 10th Avenue South. I'm glad the building came up. I was speaking to the trees, but we need to build here on this side of 17 in the town of Surfside. Remediate what you will, but get our public works all here together. Police, court, and council. That's all I got to say about that. Would it be appropriate at this time, though, when speaking to the items on the agenda, that your business item 8B, that's about the first vote on the first reading. Shouldn't we just knock that off because we're not ready to vote on the first reading of that ordinance? So maybe you should need to agenda the whatever you're doing tonight. We've certainly killed enough time doing other things, but anyway, you should just take that off the agenda. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Steve Shore, First Avenue North. Good evening, council, residents. I'm here tonight to talk about on the agenda item 7A, the pier update. Recently, I requested a copy of the contract, the insurance contract, risk contract, and I was told that we don't have a copy of that contract. We've got a $17 million project, and we don't have a copy of the insurance to prove it. See what it is? Does the town have liability insurance on the pier at this time? I don't know that either. I'm only asking questions I don't know. And I'm asking that maybe council can ask someone to ask for a copy of their contract. I know Consensus got their own insurance. We got a contract with Consensus, I understand that. But if we've got that big of a project, we need to know that we're covered there in case something does happen there. On item 8C, decision paper on the city plan, $30,000 for a website plan. People I'm talking to, though, they say that's kind of high. I've talked to programmers that I know, and they're all saying it's high. Number one, why don't we bid that out? And then we can find out if it's high or not. See what other people would bid on it. I know the ordinance reads that we don't have to. I understand that. But just to be fair and put it out there in order for transparency, find out what the other people would charge for websites. I'd like to thank the Falcos for serving this town. They do a very good job. Thank you. As far as moving a building across the street, that would be a disaster. Because most of the people in this town are used to getting in a golf cart and riding to town hall, and they're not going to cross 17. I can tell you that for sure. So regardless of whatever, I've been told different stories about FEMA wants us to move across the street. Well, FEMA wants to move across the street. How much they're willing to contribute to it? That would be my next question. We got plenty of land here to build on. It's gonna have to be, as pointed out earlier, it's gonna have to be torn down anyway. Before we move across the street or go here. We got plenty of land to build on. Let's build on it.
Any other public comments? Okay, next thing on the agenda is under communications, and it's the peer update by Mr. Shanahan. Oh, I'm sorry. We moved the agenda, so the next thing is a memorial plaque for Assistant Chief Thomas Anderson by Larry Carter.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Shanahan, and staff, and our town citizens, good evening. On July 3rd, 2021, 5 of our local firefighters who were lost in the line of duty were recognized by the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation. One of our own, those 5. Down at Surfside Beach, Assistant Chief Thomas E. Anderson. Down at Loris Fire Department, Assistant Chief Rodney Hardy. City of Conway Fire Department Engineer Chris Ray. Dougherty County Fire Department District Chief Rhett LaFawn. City of Myrtle Beach Lieutenant John Burns. The town of Surfside Beach lost Assistant Chief Anderson on a working fire here in the town in 2002. Assistant Chief Anderson served the town of Surfside Beach for over 22 years. His duty spanned from administration to training to records for the fire department here in the town. His knowledge of the fire service extended beyond the borders of Surfside Beach, with instructing firefighters statewide with thousands of hours of instruction. Thank you to his family for sharing Chief Anderson with us. And his knowledge goes on today with the firefighters he trained over the years. Please remember these gentlemen that lost their lives doing the job they loved and protecting citizens they may not even know. We ask that you never forget these men and those men and women that have passed protecting and serving their communities, the state, and our great country. I would now like to present the award plaque and certificate for Councilman Paul Holder and also Assistant Chief Thomas and his sister, my wife. The plaque reads the Walk of Honor in memory of Thomas E. Anderson. A brick was placed on the National Fallen Firefighter Memorial Park Walk of Honor by the 1-800 board up in Myrtle Beach in 2021. This plaque is being presented to the family, also with a certificate with his name on a brick that will be there forever, honoring this gentleman along with other firefighters around our country who have served and protected their communities.
And now for the peer update by Mr. Shanahan.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is our July 2021 project update. Since removing the remnants of the damaged pier in February, significant progress has been made on the replacement of the pier. Reconstruction of the landside portion of the pier began in March. So far, 73 18-inch by 18-inch precast concrete piles have been installed. These piles will support the podium, which will house the 3 new buildings. Installation of the 18-inch piles was completed in May 2021. Consensus is now in the process of installing the 12-inch piles that will support the monumental stair, the handicap ramp, and the stairs and the elevator towers. Installation of the piles is expected to be completed by August, followed by the completion of coordination and moving some of the crane mats. Following the installation of the 12-inch piles, the concrete beams and slab for the podium will be constructed. Construction of the remainder of the podium is expected to take approximately 11 months. Hopefully sooner. We don't have a firm date yet, but they're doing everything they can to reduce that time. To assist with construction of the seaside portion of the pier, a temporary access trestle is being constructed parallel to the new pier. The trestle will allow a crane to traverse alongside the pier as it is constructed from the land side toward the sea. So basically this crane, which is bigger than the one that we've got out there already because it's over the water and it's got to go deeper, is going to be on piles over the water. It's going to be quite impressive to watch, I think. The pile installation for the trestle will begin in July. To date, the contractor has constructed a U-shaped sheet pile wall and has been filling it in with sand and bracing it with steel beams to create a ramp up the trestle. That's what that metal thing is that you see being filled in. Installation of the piles for the trestle is expected to begin within the next 2 weeks. Next month, Consensus anticipates installing pile caps for the stair towers, handicap ramp, and elevators. Concrete walls up to elevation of 28 feet for the stair towers and the elevator. Mobilization of the larger pile hammer to drive the piles into the ocean. Construction of the trestle. Revise the value engineering drawings for Collins review and approval. Buying materials and preparing submittals for the remainder of the project, starting with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in, which is basically locate where those lines will be, in sleeves for the elevator and possibly the podium slab, and install the monument stairs. Per construction is on track for completion next summer, assuming no issues with hurricanes, which we're praying does not happen. I did go down and take a couple of pictures just so people can see what we actually have down there. And if you don't mind, I'll just show them that those are the piles that they've talked about in the very background. You can see the trestle, the beginning of the trestle. This is where they're digging to put it in the 12-inch piles. This is just more piles. And this will be the path that the crane uses to get out to the trestle to go over the water. And on the left where you see those steel, I don't know what you call them, roll-ups, they will actually be going in the water and the concrete will be going on top of them as part of the piles. And it's just another picture of where the trestle is beginning at. And as you can see, they've already got the wood and they've already got the dirt, the sand going in. It's almost full. And those are the pictures that we had. They're working very hard to get it done as soon as possible. Budget is going very well. We're not over budget anywhere. We still have money coming in from the FEMA grant, and we'll keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shanahan, you said completion of summer 2022. That is strictly the pier, correct? Not the buildings on the pier.
Actually, that's what the buildings. It's going to be. What you'll see is two projects going on. Once they have the concrete on top, you'll see on the land side them building the buildings, and on the water side you'll see them building the pier. So both of those. So those dates are for everything. Yeah, I have not been briefed of them being separate dates.
Unforeseen hurricanes or anything for delays, we should have a pier and building operative next summer.
Yes, toward the end of the summer, and they're rushing. They're going to do the best to get it done as close to July 4th as they possibly can. That's the goal. Not saying it's going to happen. That's the goal. But I mean, they're working hard.
Any other questions from council? Well, I have a question that has to do with the pier contract that we heard in the public hearings.
Yes.
Is it true that we can't find our own contract for that?
When we did it, they gave us an overview of what the contract, because it's their contract, it's not our contract. Our contract says that they have the ability to do that, and we allowed them to do that based on the service that they were given that we presented. I do not have a copy of what their official contract is, but I don't think it'd be an issue to get that contract. I mean, I'll have it for you pretty quickly and we'll.
Well,
get
I
the
think
other one.
that contract is going to be, it should be public under the FOIA.
Yes, as
And
soon
if
as we
somebody
get it,
requested it, I think that we need to work on getting it.
we can make it happen, but.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that according to our contract with Consensus, when we exercised our right to have them procure the insurance for us, it also stipulated that we are named additional insureds and that there was an indemnification provision in the contract. But the contract is privately held by Consensus Construction. And I'm not sure their contracts are subject to FOIA because it's not a municipal agreement.
And I don't disagree with that, but when we brought this to you, they identified everything they were doing and everything that was being insured and the different costs. And so if nothing else, I can get that.
Yeah, we have the summary of the proposal.
But
Well,
we
for the
will,
sake of transparency, I think that we owe it to any resident who wants to know information about that we should share the information.
agreed.
Any other questions on that? The next thing on the agenda is the Dogwood Swash update by Walter Warren from Thomas and Hutton.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Mayor,
evening.
Members of council. Just wanted to give you an update on our progress for the SWASH project. Those that were observing the previous one we did at Myrtle Swash, this one's gone slightly different. The project was demolished, or the old bridge section was demolished. And during that demolition work, there was discovered some water lines that were older style water lines. The contractor actually made an effort to do some pile installation, was not able to complete the pile driving due to the hardness of the rock underneath the swash. He has since ordered newer equipment to auger in, similar to what the previous contractor had done at Myrtle Swash. During that interim, while he's waiting on his equipment, we coordinated on the town's behalf with Grand Strand Water and Sewer that owns this water line. It has been replaced with a newer PVC line, and they're in the process of removing the asbestos cement line. It was basically used back in the 70s. To get that removed, we had to make an application to DHEC in order to remove that line, properly dispose of it, the recycle or landfill. That application was made and has been approved, and that work should be completed by the end of this week. At that point, the contractor will then go back to work, auger in the piles, and go back to work on the completion of the box culvert project. Their updated schedule furnished to the town manager was that they would wrap up sometime in September as their current projected wrap-up date.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just have one question. When we were doing the design for the Dogwood Swash, did we do any kind of site survey plans to be able to foresee any of these differences between the Dogwood Swash and the Myrtle Swash?
Each one was surveyed independently. The type of material that the water line in question was made of couldn't be determined because it was under the swash. The wash was full of water. We knew there was a water line there. Grand Strand had marked it, but the type of material involved was not identified by them.
And isn't it clear that we actually found two different water pipes? Wasn't one found and moved, and then surprised we found another one that's asbestos wrapped?
No, ma'am. There's actually two water lines. There was the original 4-inch line. There was a ductile line. It's on the ocean side. There's a 12-inch asbestos cement line that was on the opposite side. Basically, the 4-inch line back in the day served everything potable water-wise. In later years, early in my career, we switched over to where potable and fire protection were combined. That's the point at which probably the 12-inch line was put in. But many houses were already served off the 4, so It was a pretty complicated process. Those that were affected probably know better than I do, but there were quite a few lots or units affected during the shutdown. We discovered that not only there weren't a lot of valves that we would put in the current day design to isolate things, they've gotten that made the shutdown, put in the new valves, and we've got a new line under the swash. So work should progress pretty quickly with that out of the way and completed.
And just one more question. Are we sure that the auger type of connection of the piles into the bedrock and through the silt layer and the so forth is actually going to work? Do we have the right size auger on order or in hand to move forward?
The contractor has an auger bit in hand. We believe it is very similar to what the previous contractor used, and that was completely successful. It was augered into the sandstone layer. The piles were embedded down into the sandstone layer. They create a socket. Piles are driven into that, and it locks it in place so there's no side movement. The concern in the swash is you got a very thin layer on top of rock layer, and that thin layer is so shallow you don't get any support of the pile, so you have to get down into the sandstone layer. But all indications they've ordered the appropriate auger bit and would go back to work next week augering in those piles for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. So the bottom line is September is when the dogwood swash is going to be done.
Latest schedule we've gotten from them would be they'll be putting in piles next week. There will be a little bit of a lag, so everybody's clear on that. They put in 2 test piles initially, and that's basically to make sure they don't order all the piles. They all come in and they need to be slightly longer. So we'll do 2 test piles next week. Then the other piles will be delivered shortly thereafter. So there will be a little bit of a delay for a few days between test pile and actual pile. Once those are in, then the box culverts, the caps and the box culverts can be set.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll hear from John Adair with his Public Works Department report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Good to see everybody tonight. The podium usually has a little more room on it, sorry. Public Works monthly report for June under our sanitation division, residential service, 34 new carts were delivered due to overflow, rental property, replacement or new ownership, and our supervisor responded to 74 calls regarding residential service or questions. I need to say that this has been a very heavy banner year, I would call it, for sanitation. Our tourist season is on track to be, I would say, from a refuse weight perspective, 10 to 15% more than any of the previous 5 years as far as R3 district tonnage. So hopefully that bodes well for other economic activity. In June, we collected 716 tons of solid waste, 84 tons of mixed debris, 107 tons of yard debris, 58 tons of recyclable. In fact, this past Saturday, the 10th of July, we set a new Saturday R3 record of almost 25 tons just for that one day. That's the most in the last 6 years on a Saturday we've ever done. In our street and drainage division, our crews are inspecting and maintaining drainage ways, weed eating throughout town, cleaning out ditches for capacity and function. Our beach raking and refuse recycling services are now 3 and 5 times a week respectively. We're on a full summer schedule. The crews are mowing and maintaining ditch lines, rights of way, and Highway 17. The new 5th Avenue South beach restroom is now open to the public and landscape, and the guardrail is up, so everything's up and running with that. Tonight, I'm scheduling the R2 Surfside Drive block between Poplar and Floral Drive will be restriped. All that parking spots and handicap spots will all be restriped tonight, rain permitting. So tomorrow you'll see some nice fresh paint out there. Under our grounds division, our crews have been sprucing up, excuse me, SCDOT landscaping on Highway 17 for the season. Crews have been preparing and maintaining the Huckabee ball fields for tournament play. A lot of sports tourism this time of year. And we've installed some Surfside Beach banners. Some of you may have noticed on Highway 17 and on Surfside Drive. That was just like a limited undertaking for a little bit of branding. so people know that they're in Surfside Beach and they come through here. I think they look pretty nice. In our fleet maintenance division, in June, our mechanics completed 97 repairs on town vehicles and equipment. Additionally, 19 vehicles had preventive maintenance done. And if anybody has any particular questions about Public Works, I'd be happy to answer them.
John, I see that you did put some of the banners on the light posts, but there's only a few. Are we going to have them on every other one, or are we going to have them?
Are we talking about Highway 17?
Yes.
Yeah, I started with 8. Actually, I started with 8 60-inch tall ones, and they seemed like they were lost on those big poles. So I put 8 the 84-inch ones out there. I replaced them, and I put the 60-inch ones in town. So now I have 8 84, and depending on how well they're received by, the public and council, I can go and expand that even more. But the goal was, when we installed the Christmas lights, we did every other pole on the new poles. We have, I believe, 40 or 41 poles. So we did every other light with Christmas lights set up, and I can do every other one with alternative banners if that's what the town desires. But I just wanted to put my foot in the water and see how it was received before we went any further with it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll be guided by the ball.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
John, on the, I talked to you about it one time before, was the aspect of the intersections and the trees and the power lines and then the transformers and stuff like that, and the vines going up in them. Have you got any information for us from the power company, or if they're coming to do something with that?
No, I had called, when we spoke last, you had given me a location, and it was a power company issue.
Right.
It's not something that we would handle,
Haven't ever done anything with it.
but they've never come and done anything with it.
No.
All right, I'll,
None of them.
I will make a
And
note
some
to
of
track the guy down and
Yeah,
and see when they plan it. Because they normally do Surfside on the schedule. Every couple of years, they'll go up and down every street with the
Right.
supervisor. It's okay, that tree, that tree, that tree,
I
chip it
know.
away.
I noticed one just yesterday, the part of the steel cables going through the center of the oak tree limbs.
Yeah, they're
So-
not very artistic the way they cut them.
No, no. And also the intersections in Surfside, when you pull up to the stop sign, you can't see right or you can't see left without inching forward to go. And, it's kind of dangerous on some of them. So as you ride around instead of your truck, get in a car and drive around a little bit.
Yeah, and we do address those on a regular basis.
Right.
Anything that you see that's obstructing the vision a little bit,
Right.
I assure you has been trimmed by us hundreds of times.
Right.
It's not the first time that's happened, but a lot of it is complaint based.
Right.
A lot of it we see ourselves and we'll take care of it ourselves. And some of it, the homeowner really has to take care of it
Well,
because,
and if they don't take care of
Yeah.
it, just take care of it. Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a safety issue.
yeah, that's where code enforcement comes into
Right.
play also. We've had
Well, we got to
efforts,
get that person.
we've had efforts with code enforcement tracking down homeowners with that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
John, I want to thank you and your crew for the outstanding work you do on keeping the mowing and everything you do around town. Because you keep Surfside looking good and picking up the trash. I know it's really, we've had more of it, seems like, put out for the trucks to pick up. And I see them picking up every week. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And particularly, everybody here has eyes. Everybody in the world is short of employees right now. There's people begging and clawing for employees. Every store you go to has help wanted signs up. I feel very, very lucky to only be down one person right now in this day and age because the people aren't coming to work. There's other municipalities that are down 20 and 30 people. They can't keep any numbers up. So your level of service is going to go down. We're very lucky. We should take a lot of pride that our employees are sticking with it.
Good job.
You do a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving into the business section, the next thing is the first reading of ordinance 210934, chapter 9.
It's getting a little weird up here. Can I turn this? Would that mess anything up, Sherry?
No, we're done with it. Thank you.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and community. I'm up here today to help Councilwoman Keating with the presentation of the amended Chapter 9 in our Code of Ordinances. I would like to be able to just go through it. Councilwoman Keating was provided the red line version of the ordinance, and I asked the town administrator if it would be okay if I worked with the town attorney to go through this line by line and try to bring this presentation to council for consideration. I've got a few caveats I'd like to offer up front as I put on my reading glasses as I move to my 50th birthday this month. If anybody's keeping track, I have to see these. So I hope that each of you had an opportunity to go through it. I applaud Councilwoman Keating for tackling these ordinances article by article. We're way behind on some of these ordinances, and I'll probably want to leave town when we get to Chapter 8 because that's going to be a biggie in the fall. So I have to just tell you that as we go into some of this, Councilwoman Keating may need to jump in and help me a little bit, because there's changes to parts of this ordinance that are in here that don't have anything to do with the police department, particularly dealing with parking. And so those changes are there, and maybe she'll be able to jump in and help. But there are a couple of things that I do want to hit on as we go through here, because I'd like to make some suggestions after consulting with Elise on some of these things. So I'll just jump right in. Section 9-3. Reckless operation of bicycles. This has been redlined at this time to come out of the ordinance. I would respectfully ask that council not take that out of the ordinance. I know it seems like maybe a petty ordinance, and to think that we may have to charge someone with reckless operation of a bicycle, but I submit to you that just in the last year, we have dealt with this. In fact, I myself had to deal with it. We had 2 adults, one of which was riding wheelies down the middle of Surfside Drive and running traffic off of the road while his buddy filmed a TikTok video and was posting it, and they were using profane gestures as they ran cars off the road. So this ordinance allowed us the ability to stop that behavior, and also resulted in a disorderly conduct arrest. So this is an ordinance that I would recommend as we move forward, if council would consider allowing that to stay in. Also, I checked, with the officers on patrol, and Officer Pinto, who does a lot of drug enforcement, has found this as a means sometimes to intervene in some drug activities that go on in your town. So that is one issue there. I'd like to ask council to allow that to stay in there in the final second reading. In section 9-4, standing parking beside roadway for certain purposes, there's a recommendation in here to allow, well, let me back up. The reason this ordinance is here is so that vehicles are not left on the right of ways in your town for people who abandon vehicles, or we even this year had a individual come into town from out of town and change their oil in one of your storm drains on the right of way. So these ordinances help us to address those types of things. So that person was charged with that offense, went right into your storm drains to the ocean. But there's a change in here that says that provision will not preclude a town resident from parking an owned vehicle on the public right-of-way or adjacent right-of-way adjacent to the resident's private property for the purpose of displaying it for sale or washing. That's just a council decision, however you want to move forward with that. What I would submit to you is 2 things. Do you really want cars for sale on your town right-of-ways in the neighborhoods, whether it's adjacent to their property? That's entirely up to council. I don't have an opinion on that. But the other concern here is that you're creating a selective enforcement. So a business could not, but a resident could you may get into some issues there where you're saying one person can do something, but it's against the law for another person to do something. Did I say that right, Elise?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So that may be just something that we can consider. Again, if council's okay with people parking cars for sale or on the right of way in front of their homes, I'm fine with that. So those are the last parts before we move into parking. The parking ordinance has got a lot of changes that Councilwoman Keating has made in here just to kind of clean it up, I think. Again, I don't have an opinion either way. If council has some issues that they would like to discuss after reviewing this, I'll be happy to work with Lanier or as directed by the town administrator to help in any way I can to address some of these things. I don't really have a dog in that fight, so I'm not as concerned about the parking. The parts of the parking ordinance that the police department deals with are remaining essentially the same, sort of, illegal parking, parking facing against flow traffic, and parking in no parking spaces. Those portions of the ordinance are remaining the same, so we'll move forward. Before we move past the issues of parking, does council have anything in particular that they want to address, or Councilwoman Keating, do you want to?
Yeah, Chief, just let me just say that the intent here was just to clean it up, make for consistency of use of the terminology. We have a definitions provision, but then we didn't really use it. Every time we said vehicle, then in the body of the document, we're further explaining what it meant. So most of it was just clean up of some of that thing. So we have some consistencies. From an actual parking policy standpoint, there's really nothing here that's changed. I didn't change any of the rates being charged. I didn't change any of, the requirements for the parking, where the parking meters are, or the 10-minute parking space on Surfside Drive, or, the latitude we've given to the Guy Daniels Surf Foundation. I mean, none of the policy perspectives changed. Since we discussed the option to reinstate the parking committee, I figured it wasn't really the time to start looking philosophically about the policy of parking within the town. We'll let the ultimate parking committee do that. Unless we choose not to, then, we can talk about that again. But most everything in this parking section is just clarifications. I took out some redundancies. We say the same thing 2 or 3 different times. So it's just really a cleanup. Nothing operationally is changing.
I had one suggestion is in 9-16 A6, where it references the annual Guy Daniels Surf Off event. That's generous for the ordinance to, I guess, allow a waiver of parking enforcement for that. Just one suggestion I would make is you have a lot of other events going on, say the cooperation with Surf Dreams and other things. Maybe perhaps making a change to that to add other town authorized events to waive that, so that those events can also take advantage of that generosity to waive parking enforcement, because they are doing a lot down there at the Holiday Inn. I spoke to Phil Jackson, who runs that, and he said they don't have a problem with continuing to pay, but I thought eventually it does look as though one particular event is getting favoritism over the other. So just something for council to think about, maybe just adding in the annual Guy Daniels Surf Off event or other town authorized events, or at the discretion of town council may be an option. Do any other council members have any comments I can address for the parking piece before we move into penalties? No? Okay. 9-17, this was something that we did need to take pretty quick action on. We found some problems when this was rewritten some years ago. We found some issues with how the ordinance was written as it pertained to some of the criminal and traffic offenses that are in here. And we just needed to clean that up. Ms. Crosby has made some recommendations here of how we can reword that, particularly the very first portion where it says where no specific penalty is provided. it goes to 1-16, which is part of our ordinance that addresses how other criminal-related offenses will be addressed. Particularly the offenses that we would be discussing here would be careless operation, golf cart violations that are in the latter part of the chapter that we'll get to sometime tonight. And then also say the reckless operation of bicycles, if you permit that to stay in. So we were able to clean that up, and Ms. Crosby and I have kind of reviewed that. I haven't heard anything back from Ms. Keating on that, so I think we're okay there. Ms. Crosby, do you have anything you want to add on that, or are we good on that?
I don't.
Okay. So the penalty section has been cleaned up now to provide essentially two different pieces of penalty on this. A 1-16 will address any violations that are not parking, and then any violations that occur under 9(7), 10, 11, or 12, which are your general parking violations. It just specifies that that is a civil penalty of $25 and will be handled in one of the various ways that are spelled out behind that. As you move down a little further into the ordinance on adjudication. So parking violators who are charged have a means to address or appeal the parking ticket that they get. We had to take a couple of things out of here. Particularly, there's some language in there that talks about being able to suspend people's driver's licenses from other states if they don't pay their parking ticket in Surfside Beach. That's not a real thing, so we took that out. We don't do an NRVC for licensed drivers if they don't pay their parking tickets. It would go to a dead offset. So I think that 9-17 is pretty well cleaned up, and I think we've got that taken care of. Moving into 923, we made just a couple of changes. If you remember earlier in the last couple of years, we had some issues, particularly as the highway was reconfigured and parts of the frontage road were closed. It became very convenient for some drivers to use your local businesses' parking lots as highways. And we're still getting some of those complaints, particularly with the beachwear store at the intersection of Fifth Avenue on the west side of the highway there. They've done a lot of signage. So we'd like to be able to have a way to be able to address people cutting through private property just for purposes of going 30 miles an hour through someone's parking lot before someone gets hurt. So this, and I appreciate you addressing that, Councilwoman Keating, because that's a good thing to help our businesses with some issues that they're having to take care of them. And then prohibited turns is also in a similar situation as that. The careless operation of a motor vehicle is 9-25, just a minor change there, nothing that really affects the law except as it pertains to safe operation of a vehicle from equipment in addition to just some speeding and other things. Moving down to Article 3, taxi cabs. There's a recommendation here to remove most of the language out of Chapter 9 that regulates taxi cabs. We don't have a lot of taxi cabs anymore because Uber and Lyft is so popular. I think that before we go to second reading on this, I got some additional information today speaking with the Finance Department. I need to do some checking on this before we go to second reading. There could be some ramifications with taking the regulation of taxi cabs out there is some revenue that may come to the town from Uber and Lyft and other companies by having a business license in town. So I still need to do some checking on that. I just found that out today, so I apologize for not having that for you. So I'm working on that. 9-38 said fares shall not exceed those set by the city of Myrtle Beach. So I don't know if we were using their fees as a guide or if this was a copy and paste from 1964 or something, or 1987 it appears. So we're getting that cleaned up. We did leave in the parts of the taxi cab ordinance that relate to sort of predatory practices that need to be addressed in there as far as solicitation and how they can receive and discharge passengers and deceiving passengers is still in there. But most of the requirements for taxi cabs has been taken out. And understandably so, we don't do any enforcement of it. So there's no need to have it codified when there's no enforcement of that going on. So moving down to the hot topic of wreckers and tow services, I think that I might be able to clarify some of the concerns by our representatives here from DeFalco's and Brian from Coastal Collision. I will say we could not expect better service from the police department's perspective than what we get from DeFalco's and from Coastal Collision. Even though we just have two here in town, we are just 2 square miles. And the service is, and the response time is better than I've ever seen in my career with the time. It's usually within minutes that we have wreckers on scene from either of those 2 companies. And that's 24/7. And they do an amazing job. So I definitely want to reassure them that I think we can find a way to address this in 1 of 2 ways. I think we can address these concerns. One is that if we take the regulation of taxi or wreckers out of the ordinance, which I think is what Councilwoman Keating initially had in mind, we're just we're not going to codify how we regulate your business as far as your general business of doing wreckers and how people can obtain your services in town. We're just taking out initially this section that regulates your fees, because you have, I think for probably since 1991, we've controlled how much you can charge for your services. And I think that right now, this says you can charge 100, and according to the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, you should be charging about 239 for those services. So I think that this could be beneficial to take some of this out. But there are other parts in here where I agree that I see your concerns as far as how do we run the police rotation and how could that impact you if businesses from outside of town do get into this. And the resident that brought up, I apologize, I'm not sure who said it, but businesses trying to get, I think it might have been Mr. Coleman, you know, a business is 7 miles away from here on turnover day on a Saturday in the summer is going to face some significant challenges getting in here within 30 minutes, which is what the ordinance under B1 says. All tow companies shall respond within 30 minutes once notified by the police dispatcher. You know, I would think that we have a concern there that they may not know how long it's going to take them to get here, particularly in the summertime. But what I do know is that right now, if Officer Carl, your JP Strom recipient, the police officer back there, he looks pretty sharp, isn't he? If he calls for a wrecker right now to tow off one of your cars out of the parking lot, and it's DeFalco's or Coastal Collision, they're going to be here in probably 4 to 8 minutes. So that's one thing that I think that I hadn't even thought about the traffic thing being a problem here. So the other thing is that right now the ordinance requires that all of your tow businesses have their business located in town, so they have to have a business license. Also, the tow and storage lot is located into town, and so that's a convenience for people who get their cars towed. So if we look at the towing ordinance in 2 different pieces, being private requests for tows from residents or visitors to our town, and then we also look at it as the police towing rotation. If we deregulate, I think that will be beneficial to your tow companies that are in town as far as the fees are concerned. Whether council decides to waive the requirement to have a business license, so that is a council decision. That you would lose revenue, but I don't think that's what we're after for private tows. But for the tow rotation for police, so as your police chief and a representative of town council and the residents, if we call for a tow company to involuntarily, as a part of a government seizure of someone's vehicle, to tow it off of the side of the highway, we will need to create a contract that the administrator would administer. And then that could require, and I believe should require, that it be a business who has a business license in town. Totally a council decision on that. But we just need to make sure that we're clear about, because some of the language in here talks about just having a business license, but I don't know if that's meant to say business license in town or a county business license or a state LLR business. I don't know what that means. But my intent would be, to answer some of your concerns, would be that any tow company that does pulls on behalf of the Surfside Beach Police Department in the town of Surfside should have a business license in town, because they're going to be generating revenue off of phone call from us, from y'all.
Yeah, I think, Chief, just to clarify.
Sure.
The intent here was, as you said, to not codify some of the details of the agreement between the tow companies and the police department, but that there would be the annual contract that does stipulate what the insurance requirements are, what the rates are, et cetera. And whether or not this says, or that agreement says thou shall have a business license, Chapter 4 tells you you will have a business license.
Okay.
So by this ordinance, if we take out the language that says any tow company must have a business license, that doesn't mean they don't have to, because they're still governed by Chapter 4. So it's just a belts and suspenders thing.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's one way or the other. I mean, you can leave it in that the town of Surfside has to issue them a business license, but, you know, because that's not inconsistent with Chapter 4. But by cleaning up language and not including it here, you may have it in your agreement that they have to sign. I mean, either way, it's still a requirement. It's not waiving that requirement. And now that we're about to go under the state mandated model ordinance for business licenses, that's really telling them that we can't waive any business license anyway.
Okay.
I lost.
So it wasn't to make it go away, it was just to clean up the language and so we have one place to point for requirements. That's all.
Okay. That should then pretty much address everywhere in here. And I made a notation for your red line copy. I hope you have the comments over in the margin. Each time there was a reference to a business license, I just made a notation over there so that you could see everywhere where that is addressed in the red line version. Let's see, let me go back here. 9-51, subsection 2. Where we have business location and storage lot. So that came up during the comments as well. So again, this is just a council decision. Do you want to allow businesses outside the town to participate in the police towing rotation list? Are you okay with going 5 miles? I would recommend that it be uniform. If it's 5, it should be 5, not 5 with the business, and 7. I think it should probably just be 5. But again, that's just a council decision about whether you want to expand the capability of businesses outside the town of Surfside Beach to be able to come in on the police tow rotation. So your stakeholders have spoken on that, and I just will leave that to whatever council would like to do. And I guess when we sort of bring back a second reading, if you decide to move forward with that, then we just need to know how you want to go on that, and we'll put that in there. So the decision would just be, no, we want to stick with the tow business needs to be in town and the storage lot needs to be in town, or we'll allow 5 miles or 7 miles or anybody who can get here within 30 minutes. And then we would then create that contract for the administrator to do.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Chief, I think if you recall, our discussion was, this is really just a question.
Right.
You know, I wasn't supporting it or, you know, pushing it or saying we do or we don't want to do it. It was just a question.
Right.
And, you know, and I think at that time, we were even talking about, you know, would 5 miles even get anybody else? I mean, I
Right.
did a Google search, I found one.
Okay.
But, you know, is it, you know, is there more negatives against it to positives? I mean, it was just a question.
Right.
It wasn't, you know, this wasn't even my recommendation, it was just a question.
Okay.
So if, you know, and some very good points and arguments against it were made and they're very valid, you know, I don't have a problem just going back the way it was and say, okay, yeah, let's just leave it to, it has to be in town, because there's good reasons for that.
That's really all I have, Mr. Mayor, in regards to that. And Oh, one other piece, I'm sorry. We did include in your packet a sort of a cleaner, updated, complete and comprehensive wrecker and tow services ordinance that's already in place in another jurisdiction that may be very effective here in the town of Surfside. If you had a chance to look at that, I hope that was in your packet. That is a little more updated and would clarify a lot of these issues. May not be the right thing. It's just I want to give you options so that you can decide what you think will be best to implement. If we, as part of the contract that each tow service would enter into with the town to provide towing services on the police rotation list, we would stay in line with the Department of Public Safety's maximum fees. So for towing, we would set fees for how much they can charge, but it would be in line with what the current fees are, which I think was last published in 2018. I think that was that last one. So they're still pretty much the same, but a lot more fair to our businesses in town so that they can make a reasonable. Times have changed and things have gone up. $100 is not really fair, in my opinion, for the service they provide and the time that they get there and what they, I mean, when they get there, they take over, they clean up, they make sure everything's clean, debris, they do it really quick. And then it helps us get the roads back open quick and also keeps people from getting run over by some of these other drivers that are flying around down here, crashing into our police cars and stuff. So.
Well, and Chief, I think that was also the reason to take it out of the ordinance and
Yes.
put it into an annual agreement. So as those living documents change, we're not coming back and, going through the 2 readings of an ordinance change just to keep that current, because every cycle, every year will be either
Right.
extending the last agreement or executing a new agreement.
Absolutely. And then if DPS comes out with a new fee schedule in 2023, that would just be incorporated into the annual renewal of the contract for our companies that participate in the tow rotation. So the last thing that was in there was the cleanup of the golf cart ordinance. And that was really just some minor changes on the golf carts. One thing, we took out anything in the golf cart ordinance that referred to a gated community. That was copy and pasted originally just from the state law. So we don't have any gated communities in Surfside. So that was just taken out of there. Also, just a couple of changes to clean up when people can operate a golf cart, within 4 miles of the address and on highways and roads where the speed limit is 35 miles an hour or less, and just cleaned up some of the language in there. And then also kind of clarified low speed vehicles are getting more popular now. And we hope I hope everyone will go trade in their golf cart for a low speed vehicle, pretty please. We've just,
Working on it.
yeah, just while we're in this meeting, someone pulled out in front of a car on Ocean Boulevard and has had a bad golf cart accident. While we're in this meeting, I was notified. People have gone to the hospital from that. These golf carts, in fact, I spoke with Representative Fry today and asked him to pretty please outlaw them, but that's not going to happen. I could ask. But this will clean up and define that there is a difference between a low-speed vehicle and a golf cart, and to clarify what people can do with that. So that's it. That's all I have. But if you have questions or anything you want me to work on or address, that's where we're at.
Any questions? Mr. Shanahan?
Yes, sir. Just as a reminder, when we did was ordinance 17 or chapter 17, after we finished the first reading, the process that we followed was we sent it out to all our department heads just to see if they caught something that we missed based on their jobs. And then the second thing we did before the second reading is we had a workshop, and it was a public workshop, and we went through all of this again with any additional changes or stuff. And I don't know if
That was
you'd
going to
like
be
to
my
do that.
suggestion, because I don't think the tow companies had an opportunity to get involved in the process other than come here tonight.
We can make
which
that happen.
They probably should have.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you recall, we have also changed our Chapter 2 ordinance about how we process and what triggers the difference between a first reading proceeding to a second reading with modifications, and what requires the modifications to be re-reviewed and represented as a first reading. So my question to you, Chief, is are we okay by deferring this first reading by having, if you want to have a public hearing or, check with the other department heads, workshop, whatever you want to have, before making those appropriate changes that result, and having another first reading for your changes that you need to Article 917? Or should we be looking at trying to pass 917 quickly?
917 is the most urgent change in Chapter 9. So I may have to kind of defer to Ms. Crosby on what the proper procedure for that would be to make 917 is urgent to the police department.
Right.
But what is the best course of action? I'm not really sure.
I mean, because you figure this is going to go through September or so now.
Mr. Mayor, the
Go ahead.
motion could certainly be, council's motion tonight could be to give first reading to the proposed amendments to 917. You don't have to say anything about that. A motion wasn't made, was it, before they started discussion?
No.
Right, so there's been no motion on the floor. You could just make that motion. If you wanted to say motion to table the remaining stuff or a motion to postpone to a specific date after specific action, you really don't need to. If the motion is, if the only motion is 917, that would be the first reading. And you could include something else if you wanted to say, and set a workshop meeting, direct the administrator to set up a workshop meeting, or whatever y'all want it to be.
So we could pass a first reading of the changes to 917
Yes.
and defer the remainder?
Yes. and
That
the
would be
enabling
ideal.
Ordinance, we'll just change it before second reading so that it's specific.
Yeah, so we'd still use the 210934, but we'd take everything out but 917.
Right, and when it comes back, I think, what is that? It's probably in general or the moving.
Yeah, it's in general.
In general. So I just take all of
Article
that
1.
out and give it to the enabling ordinance would be pretty and only refer to 917 for second reading.
Okay. Okay.
That would be good.
That'd be good. Do I have a motion to do that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept first reading of ordinance 21-0934, modified to provide 4 changes to paragraph 9-17 only, as presented in the red line changes.
Second.
Second it.
Okay, and the rest of it, do we want to
And we'll,
direct the administrator to?
yeah,
put
we
up
can
a
just
workshop?
defer the balance until the completion of a public workshop and modifications resulting therefrom.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion before we vote? Okay, Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Pellegrino, Drake,
Yes.
and myself is yes, so that passed 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
You guys make sure you're at that workshop. Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance 210933, chapter 17, article 7, landscaping and tree division 2.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we defer the first reading of ordinance 21-0933 pending the completion of the Planning Commission's public hearing and appropriate modifications to the ordinance thereafter.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion before we vote on it? Ms. Scholes, Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Pellegrino,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
and myself is yes, so there's another 6-0. Moving right along, the next thing is decision paper, Civics Plus website upgrade.
No,
No, Rally in the alley, sir.
Oh,
Alternate B, rally in the alley.
all right, I need to check my other agenda. All right.
evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Melanie Peak, and I would like to introduce a new event to Surfside. It's not going to be called Rally in the Alley. We have changed it to Discover Surfside. And we would like to promote this event to be on September 25th, which is a Saturday, from 11 to 3. Over on the second block of 3rd Avenue South, going up on the crossroad and back down into the alley. We have talked to the businesses that it would affect. We have also come in front of the business committee, and I spoke with Mr. Shanahan yesterday, and would just like your endorsement to move forward with the event.
And the date on that event again?
September 25th. It is this Saturday.
And what is the event?
It would be called Discovered Surfside, and it would involve vendors, food, entertainment. I am currently working with Lee from Benjamin's Bakery and Debbie Ellis from Surfside to help draw the event all together. We also discussed it being a kickoff event for a revised Taste of Surfside, moving forward into October, kind of going off of the Discover Surfside. We would also, we have talked about doing a keg takeover at Regattas to promote a couple of the local breweries. And that's basically what it would involve.
Mr. Mayor, have you talked with John and Sonia Hutton? Because their craft market is called Discover Surfside.
No, so we would have to adjust the name.
Yeah, because their craft market is Discover Surfside Craft Market.
Another name that was discussed was Explorer Surfside. So we can play around, we can play around with that a little bit. if need be.
Sorry, I'm blind.
It's only the mayor. Pointed at David.
Thank you. Thank you.
The spots are going away.
I'm sorry.
Where are you?
But
Real quickly, we did speak about it and, you know, we have, you know, you all have asked for other events, family sponsored events, things that will help us become a destination, not just at the waterfront, but in the whole community. And I personally think they fit everything. Everything they told me I liked.
Are they gonna?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh.
Will the streets be blocked or so the golf carts can't run over pedestrians?
yes,
Going, okay,
that
good.
is our intention, to block that area off.
Okay.
And we have spoke with the other businesses that are on there. They're fine with that. The reason I'm involved, I've done this in other communities before. I see them to be very good for people coming into our area to get acquainted with us, our businesses, things like that. I've worked with Waccamaw Publishers. They are willing to partner with this event to shove it out, print, digital, whatever we need to get the publicity out there. And so I think it would be a win for all of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you said that you're gonna have food carts or food,
We're
other,
gonna have vendors, like some of the restaurants can come and set up, like a area where they can showcase their foods, et cetera.
Mhm.
We did discuss maybe having 1 or 2 food trucks there.
okay,
We're just continuing to move forward in the process.
all right, and they're all gonna have their Surfside business license?
They would have to.
Yes, I wanna make sure of that, okay.
So this isn't just for Surfside businesses, this is for other businesses also.
Basically, we were trying to get it just to be a Surfside event.
But other vendors will come,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Are there any other questions?
I just wanna make sure.
So what you're looking for is a consensus of council to let you proceed to go ahead on this. Any other discussion before we vote on it?
Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned that we're taking our events and we're getting far too many people involved in leading them. Don't take me wrong, I fully support what you're doing, 100%, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I just want to make sure that you're keeping tabs on, you know, we've had these issues with other events where people don't all understand what their role is and who's doing what. So, you know, we're adding yet another outside source resource. You know, we want to make sure who's in charge, who's doing what. So we're clear from the beginning and we don't end up with misunderstandings all the way through the process.
Yes, ma'am. I am working very carefully with that. We've had some issues in the past. We're coming up with a process to make it work. And there's going to be, there's two separate things you look at. Something like this, which would be run by these folks who have requested it. And we would be there to help in any way we can. And then, of course, town events that we run that we would have volunteers helping us with. And so, yes, ma'am, we are looking at that.
Well, I guess I'm concerned about making the distinction. I mean, we've already made the distinction that, you know, My Olive Shack is running the craft fair.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're operating under one set of rules. And the Holiday Inn, it operates its craft fair and they seem to have a different set of rules. And the church has their fall festival and they have a different set of rules. So I'm just concerned, how many sets of rules are we going to have an event within the town?
One set of rules.
Yeah, we need to make sure that whether, you know, the town is leading and sponsoring an event, or, you know, it's KSBB that's leading or sponsoring an event, or it's one of our local businesses that want to help and support our town, they're sponsoring an event. Let's just make it one way and one way only. Bring your great ideas, bring your help, that's fabulous, but let's do it one way for all of them.
Agreed. And what you're talking about is a history that's been going on for a lot of years. And the goal is to get through to a one-stop point probably at the end of the year, because the way we've been doing it.
Right.
And then once
Yeah, I'm
we've
not saying
done with
redo
it,
what
yeah.
we hit. Yeah.
And then once we get to that point, everybody follows the same. But what you don't want to do is people have already scheduled it because they've been doing it for the last 12 years. You don't want to change that, mess them over. So,
Right, right.
so yes, we are following it. We're watching it and
So this is going to be sponsored by the business committee?
Not sponsored by the business committee. I mean, I don't know that
They
that was
support it.
totally discussed that way. The powers that are involved at this time are Debbie Ellis from Town of Surfside, myself, and Lee, and then we have Kim Fowler as well. We are just kind of planning what is going on. We are being guided more or less with Debbie's help.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank
you. There any other questions? All right, Ms. Scholes?
Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Pellegrino?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And myself is yes. So there's another 6-0 vote. We look forward to it.
All right.
Look forward to it.
September 25th. All right, the next thing is the decision paper Civic Plus website upgrade, Mr. Shanahan.
yes. Well, as you know, we spoke about this 2 weeks ago, and the whole goal is, number one is one of the council's goals was to upgrade, create, get and implement a website that addresses the town. The website would encourage citizen engagement, document management, information and navigation, have department-specific issues out there. It would also be able to collect money and pay fees and things like that. And based on that, we went through a process and we talked to 4 different companies, excuse me. And when we went through the process, we looked at who could give us what we wanted at the best price. And when we finished that, we actually identified Civic Plus to be the website company to do that. We did not break any rules. We did not do it the way it shouldn't be done. However, in saying that, I've got to tell you, if, you know, as a town administrator, my word is my bond. If people can't trust us as a council, then we're no longer effective. And so I feel that if people do think that we didn't do it the right way, after talking to all these companies, we know exactly what we want. It would not be hard to put out a request for proposal and identify exactly what we wanted. However, if we do that, we could lose the price that we've got with the Civic Plus. So, yeah, I'm good either way. If we, I think they're going to do a good job. I think Civic Plus has a history of doing a good job. They've got 4,000 governments that they look after. However, in saying that, I've heard what the citizens said, and while we did not do a single thing wrong, I don't want that appearance out there either. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, any other questions? Any recommendations?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the offer as negotiated for Civics Plus and get started on achieving our goals and upgrading the functionality and the user-friendly features of our webpage that offsets cost from the current platform provider, as well as the third-party person that we pay to update the content. One of the key features of this program is that management of the content can be brought in-house. So we are saving more money per year than this ultimately will cost us. And it's only this year that the program would not be in the budget. And that would only be about a $3,000 difference.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment just so that everybody, the residents know this, that, I saw some stuff that says that private things were negotiated or whatever. Mr. Shanahan contacted and talked to Civics Plus. And when he did that, he talked to Sherry and asked Sherry to learn more about it. So I went in and I saw Sherry and Vicky, who's our HR person. They had an online interview with Civic Plus where they did a demonstration and stuff like that. I wasn't part of it. I just saw that they were doing it. And basically later on, I got an email from Sherry basically stating that they wanted to do the same thing for council. So all of council was invited to participate in a GoToMeeting or an online thing for Civic Plus. So of everybody that was offered this on council, Ms. Keating, Mr. Holder, and I attended the GoToMeeting thing and learned all about Civics Plus. Okay, and what they had to do. There were actually two meetings. The second meeting was a GoToMeeting that they just did a follow-up on. And Ms. Keating and I were on that when Mr. Holder could not be at that date. So it wasn't like anybody had any private negotiations. All of council was invited. All of council was put in to get that done. So.
Well, and we also negotiated a significant price reduction.
Right.
Especially
but that
for
wasn't
the
done,
annual
that wasn't
fees.
done privately. That was done.
On the Zoom maybe.
Right.
Yes.
Is there a motion? Are we doing discussion now or
Well,
what?
one thing
We
we
needed a
talked about.
second.
Go ahead. One thing we talked about, y'all were going to talk about the cost savings. Sydney mentioned the cost savings, but what of those? And because that wasn't given last time. The cost savings that we're going to see we're going with Civic Plus.
Did anyone second this? I don't
So-
think anyone seconded the
We need a
motion.
second, yes.
Okay. Do I have a second for Ms. Keating's motion? Okay. Then I guess we'll defer that. Do I have a motion for anything on what we're going to do with the Civic Plus? Mr.
Apparently
Shanahan,
not.
beg your pardon?
Apparently not.
Do you have any recommendations on where we should go from here?
Chris, with proposal. I mean, we need to get this done. I mean, we know exactly what we're looking for now. When we went into it, we were kind of blind but I have a resident expert now that can help me put this
In order
together
not to kill this thing, should we put it out for an RFP?
as quickly as
You're going to
possible.
lose the discount that's been negotiated.
Well, to put it out for an RFP, it's better than letting it die right now. Go ahead.
I think it was brought up when you did the presentation to council.
Yes, ma'am.
That I think we're just moving a little bit too fast with this. That concerns me. It was brought up with all the costs that this town is incurring right now. I know this is important to bring us into the technology age that we need to be in, but I would like to see more people offering stuff and bringing presentations to council and to the town. They're the ones that are going to be working with this. They're the ones that are going to be going on that website. Just because we like it, we think it's a good idea, we need to hear from those people sitting out there. But I think more importantly, right now, I don't think we need to spend any more money than is necessary. This was not budgeted for this year. Bring it up next year and let's put it on the budget.
Well, we had a goal and an objective that we all agreed this year that we wanted to update the website and get better information out to the residents. Each website's going to take at least 6 months to build, so we're already going to be, out of this year before we get this done. We go through a bidding process. We've got the same 4 companies are likely to give us their proposals again, except we won't have the benefit of negotiating the discount, which was about 20%. So,
I want to see more than one person's presentation.
well, all you had to do was talk to Sherry and ask her for the other 3.
Oh, they gave presentations?
We have.
The other
folks-
3
yeah,
did?
Presiding officer to be addressed in our
I guess what I would like to say is there was one person that gave an overview and we were invited to, and that was Civic Plus. I like to be a little more open-minded and I would like to see other people give presentations so that we can make informed decisions for our residents.
Yes, Jerry.
Make a comment, just to clarify for everybody how this really went. When they did their goals and objectives, the website was a big thing. We're not getting the information, we're not getting the newsletters, we're not, all this kind of stuff. So after their meeting, Jill asked me and another coworker to start looking into it. I've never done a website. I don't know the first thing. Well, I researched some companies, I sent them all an email saying, send me what you do. Some of them don't work with our financial
Software.
that we already pay a whole lot of money for, because apparently some don't want to switch that. So, trying to keep some of what we have. Other ones don't offer everything that Civics Plus did. Civics Plus offered a program that the residents can click on a department and sign up, and anytime Public Works is updated, you get a text message. Any department in the town, finance, public works, police, anything. You can't get it any faster than that. You don't have to go to the website. You don't have to wait for a newsletter to come out. It's there. There's, instead of having different programs to do social media, MailChimp and Facebook and all this, you do it once, you click it, it goes to all of them. So if you're signed up for all of them, you're gonna have more information than you want to hear about. But, so, with that being said, that's why there was only one presentation, because I reached out before, and it's just a no-brainer. $30,000 really isn't a lot. If anybody has ever researched doing a website, they're into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know you don't believe me, and that's okay, but I've been doing this for 3 months now, so I've gotten really good with it. And it's just, oh, ADA, that's another thing. This website, because of the fact that the country is becoming more, has to become more ADA compliant, because towns are getting sued because their website's not ADA compliant, meaning for the blind, for the hearing impaired, for the dyslexic, whatever, problem you may have. This website has that. It will produce this website in 100 different languages. I don't think we have that in the third side, but I'm sure we have everybody covered. So there's just nobody that even comes close to this company. But the main thing that stands out is the way that it gets the information out. You guys put your email in, you put your text in, anytime John updates, Chief Hoffman updates, boom, it's there, you get it. None of us have to go in and say, hey, can you send an email letting the residents know? It's there. And that's what you guys said you wanted. You wanted more information. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, is there any way that we can get the bids from everyone, even though we may lose the discount that they're talking about, get the bids from the other vendors or people who want to participate in this?
If we did a request for proposal, we would just put it out and let anybody who wanted
Right.
to propose. It might not be any of them three. We'll put it out where everybody can have access to it.
And then we do that, and then if they want to bid, they can bid, and if they don't, they don't, and
Yeah, but we'd be telling them exactly what we wanted in this program.
okay.
Now that I've learned all this.
Mhm.
And then we take the number of proposals that we get and we would evaluate them and decide from there what we're going to do.
Yes, sir.
And move forward.
Do you want to put a motion to that?
Yeah, let's have a motion that we can go ahead and get the bids from all the people and move forward with this plan for the computer system.
By later.
I have a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, Ms. Scholes? Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
No.
Pellegrino?
Yes.
Keating? I'm sorry.
Drake, yes.
Drake? And myself is yes, so it passed 5-1. Next thing on the agenda is the building remediation with Mr. Shanahan.
Hello again. 2 weeks ago, I made a presentation and I was asked 2 questions. The first question was, can we even build on this property? So I used my public works director and yes, we can. It's Hurricane A, it's not a flood zone, but we can actually rebuild on this area. So that was the first question. And then I was asked to negotiate a cost across the street. And we went back in and we tried to renegotiate and see if we could get it any lower than we had it. We were not successful. There was actually several bids or offers already made to them. And there's a couple waiting to see what we do. And in saying that though, that the building cost, if you wanted to move forward with it, would be $1 million. And we had that building appraised. And it appraised for $1.15 million. No, I'm sorry, one point. There we go. I was close. Appreciate it. $1,110,000. And so those were the questions that we were asked. Again, if we build or fix here, we're talking for all the buildings, it would be $3,654,500. Demolition would be another $1.1 million. If we do it over there again, it'd be $1 million. If we get the other property, we can, I guess we can talk about numbers now because this is it. The back property for parking would be $85,000. And we also have the opportunity to get the side of the left-hand side 25 feet by 225 feet for other parking. So the parking would be there. And yes, we talked with our engineers in reference to a courthouse / conference, council conference chamber. And if we had that other parking space, it would be better to build a separate building in the back attached to the building that we're at. We're talking about $500,000 to do that. That would be the cost to do that. So total cost would be about 1.6, 1.7 million for all of that. And I think that's about it. Just,
Any questions? Okay.
Mayor, I heard him mention during some of the presentations people made that the place is not big enough. And I don't know if I agree with that. It's 10,000 square feet over there. And
10,700.
10,700. And I think we would mainly be using downstairs.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, there'll be a couple of little people that need to be isolated upstairs, but the rest of it would be downstairs.
So we wouldn't even use all the space.
No, sir.
anytime soon.
No, sir.
Good.
Why do we need that much space? Why are we going to obtain that much space if we're not going to utilize it? I mean,
Well,
why can't we build what our needs are on this side of 17?
and we can, if we do, it's 5.5 million versus 1.7 million. That's the only difference is the cost.
5 million to
Yeah,
build, what are we
Let me
building?
pull the numbers, just to make sure. I'm
How many square feet?
4.7, I'm sorry, 4,700,000.
How many square feet is that?
That would be for the building and planning, 6,706 square feet. For the court, 2,160 square feet. And for the town hall, 5,752 square feet. That would be building it exactly as we have it now. That would be not, I mean, I'm sure if we have it on the same footprint, we can move an office or two. But that's based on the footprint we have right now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank Mr. Shanahan for his diligence in pursuing this project. He's done really good on the answers, all the questions for us and moving forward with this. All I have to add, make a motion if you want.
Yeah, I would just, because you all had asked about due diligence, and there are some things that were identified that the sellers have agreed to fix. But just so you know, I just want to go through the list of folks that we talk with the due diligence, just so you know who we dealt with. I think it's important. One was Collins Engineering, the other was LS3P Architect, and it was GEL. Terracon, they did the air sample and mold testing over there. REI did the building envelope and did a visual over there for the Waccamaw Land Surveyors and Charleston Engineering for the HVAC. So I just want you, those are the companies that we used to make sure that the building, we weren't going to walk into a bigger problem.
Okay.
Looking for a motion?
Now I see on the first agenda, we had an executive session, and on the revised agenda, we don't have an executive session. So do we have an executive session?
5 minutes.
Okay. So do we need to take a final vote on that?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Executive session?
Oh, the executive session wasn't for this, it was for something. It was.
Oh, okay, so we can vote on this now.
Yeah, you need to vote on this now. Yes, there's no executive session. I apologize. I misunderstood.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we give the town administrator the ability to continue the building plans to get us on Highway 17 and the building across the street as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion before we vote?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
from a numbers standpoint, obviously 4.7 million to rebuild here and 1.7 to, who knows, by the end, 2 million or so to build over there. Obviously, from a numbers standpoint, it points to buying the building over there. I still have a concern, and I've talked to Mr. Shanahan about this a lot. I still think $1 million is too much for that building. And I understand supposedly they have interest now, but they didn't have any interest for the last year. So I'm still, because we know we're going to have to put $700,000-800,000 into the property over there afterwards, and I still think we could save on the front end on the cost. I was involved with the last 2 land purchases here, and we paid too much for both of those, and this seems like we're going to do the same thing again.
Yes.
My concern is it's not just buying the building, and it sounds like this man's not willing to negotiate with us. But we're looking at $1 million there, and we're looking at buying 2 parcels of land, one for parking, one to build a council courthouse.
No, 2 parcels, both of them would be used for the parking. The where we would extend the courthouse would be in the back of the building on a portion of the blacktop that's already there.
Okay, so we're gonna build that courthouse then?
Yes, ma'am.
Construct it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Without
so
a
there's
doubt.
an additional cost. It concerns me. It concerns me, and the fact of the location. I mean, the access, people, majority of our people come here by golf cart.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
accessibility to that building is not good. And I mean, Chief Hoffman, we all spoke about golf cart, especially going down Glens Bay, crossing over 17. It's just not a good fix. I really would like to see the town stay on this side of 17, not just for the convenience of our residents, but this is a prime piece of property, and 40 years from now, it's going to be even worth more for the residents that are in this town. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, we had talked about this in the last meeting. The cost of the trailers that we'd have to bring in could be in excess of $150,000 to $200,000, not including the plumbing, the electrical, and all that has to be run to them. We have employees that are in harm's way right now. And I'm worried of the fact that if we don't do something real quick, that then we're going to be liable with sickness and problems with air quality. That's not worth messing around with. And we're saving money to begin with, and the price was 1.2 million for the building. It got negotiated by Mr. Shanahan to 1 million. That's 200,000 off, but the cost of real estate has gone through the roof. Now, yes, that is blue sky. Blue sky comes, blue sky leaves. It's about every 10, 12, 15-year cycle. But we got to talk about what's going on today. And we have employees that are in harm's way. And I think that we need to consider that. Because one person come down with a lung disease, one person come down with something, and it's going to cost a whole lot more than that. So we really have to consider that.
All right, Mr. Holder.
Yes. I do think we're overpaying. I agree with David. We are overpaying for that building. I know you negotiated with them, but they're going to play hardball. And I think if we're going to negotiate this, we have to play hardball back. I think 1 million is too much for that building. And we had to do more negotiation. And that would be, give a price, this is what we'll pay, and that's it.
My opinion on this is that, we looked at the price on what it's going to do, and it's going to cost 4.5 to do it. All right. If we do the 4.5, we still have to come up with putting trailers on it, moving our personnel out and everything else. If we go over there, it's 1.
About 1.7 when we.
Yeah, 1.7. Okay. And we still own this property. Can decide what we're going to do or whatever later. But it's, to me, I just can't see giving up this opportunity where we have the place over there on some place that's already built, ready to move, preferably ready to move. But, and putting us in a position where we don't know what we're going to do at this point. So my recommendation is to buy the other building and move into the other building, and then we can determine what we're going to do with this property and evaluate what we're going to do later. But that's my recommendation. Is there any other discussion? Let's take a vote. Ms. Scholes. Or I need a motion first.
Michael made a motion.
Okay. Mr. Holder.
No.
Ms. Keating.
Yes.
Mr. Pellegrino.
No.
Mr. Drake.
Yes.
And myself is yes. So it's 3-3. So the motion failed. Next thing on the agenda is the stormwater fee with Mr. Pellegrino.
I'll be real quick with this. A couple of years ago, council voted to pass the stormwater fee, and I do agree everyone should pay the stormwater fee. We did have our 501c3s. We had multiple penalties over the last, basically from the first cycle through the second cycle. And, I'm fine with that, but I'm not fine that the town is responsible for the problem, 100%. We passed this 2 years ago. We passed this stormwater fee, and we never communicated it. Now, 99.9% of the people in town have already gotten, every year get a property tax bill. So they got the same property tax bill, and there was one more line item, stormwater fee on it. And, you saw it, you paid it, whatever. Well, these 501c3s never got a property tax bill before. And the town never communicated to them that there was a new tax and they were going to get a bill. So there was a lot of confusion when they got the bill. It wasn't just one person, it was multiple 501c3 organizations. And it was 100% the town's fault through lack of communication. And all it takes to correct our problem that we caused is $552 and that would reimburse all the 501c3s who are penalized. So I know some of you don't agree with that, but in my eyes, when you create a problem, you should resolve the problem, be responsible and resolve it. And this was 100% a problem created by the town. We did zero communication on a new tax. And we dropped the ball, and that's the way it is. We made a mistake. We learned from it. We won't do it again. But we created the problem, we should resolve the problem. That's just my feeling on that. I know this was discussed last meeting. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend the last meeting. But I just wanted to state my opinion on that. But thank you.
All right, thank you. The next thing is public comments. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I guess I would like to see if I could get you all to vote to create an alternate motion on item 8D, building remediation. And the reason being is now that this is done, I need to get some trailers or something here ASAP to get our guys in there. And I would like your permission to move forward with that.
Okay, what was that one more time? Just repeat it.
I would like for y'all to give me an alternative motion on that, stating that I have permission to bring in trailers or what we need to get our employees out of these buildings now that
Mr. Mayor,
the vote went the way it was.
I'll make the motion that Mr. Shanahan's looking for. Hate to see trailers parked out front, but that was something we got to do to take care of the employees. They look real trashy out front of Surfside. We're spending $200,000 plus the electrical, plus the plumbing to do the job. So that's all just rent. You're just throwing it away. But we'll go ahead and give you permission, Mr. Shanahan, motion to be able to get the trailers in to protect the employees, get them out of harm's way as soon as possible.
All right, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any
Mr. Mayor?
discussion before we do it?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the administrator to go back, and I know he went back and asked for a lower price already, but that's when they still knew we were going to vote on it. Now we know the result of the vote. I mean, I'd like to try to still get a lower price personally.
I'll do both.
When is our tentative contract end?
Give me a date.
We needed to know, have information by the 29th, the end of this month.
By the 29th. I will talk to them. I'll see if we can get up with them either tomorrow afternoon or early Thursday morning.
Do we need a special meeting to do that, or can it wait till the next meeting, or what do you?
Well, actually, that's negotiation. So, I mean, if I get a change, then we'll bring it back to y'all. But if I don't get a change, you're right. We have to move forward because we've been waiting to see what happened. And
Well, if we're not gonna work on getting this deal done, and we're gonna get this, if we're not gonna get this deal done, then we need to move our employees.
we do, yes, sir. And that's
All
what
right,
I need
and with
permission.
due diligence.
Yes,
to
sir.
move our
Up.
employees.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
you've
change.
got an active seconded motion. It can be withdrawn or amended or something, but
I-
that needs to be voted on.
I can amend it if you want me to.
Okay. So did someone
I'll
second
amend it.
his
I
motion?
know I can amend
It
it
was-
to give him permission to go ahead and proceed with the trailers, but first check on the price and see if you can negotiate a better price on
Yes,
the
sir.
building across the street. If not, then proceed to getting the trailers, I guess.
Okay,
I'll
do
do
I have
that
a second
tomorrow.
on that?
Yes.
Okay.
So what that is a motion to second the amendment. So then you would vote on the amendment and then you would go back again and vote on the amended motion.
You got to vote to approve the minute.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one that we're gonna vote on is
To amend the first one.
to amend the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Pellegrino,
Yes.
Yes.
Drake, and myself. So that's the first one. So now we've done that.
Right.
Now it's pending before council as amended.
Amended motion would be to give Shanahan the permission to negotiate a better price with the realtor. And if it's unsuccessful, to proceed with getting the trailers, sewer, electrical stuff set up and flush $200,000+ down the drain. But, okay, Go ahead.
Well, I have a question then on the amended motion. So this process we're anticipating is Mr. Shanahan will go back and try for about the 12th time to negotiate a lower price, even though he's already gotten about 20% off of the value of and it's below the appraised value of the property anyway. But he'll go back and do that, and he'll come back either successful or not successful. But are we anticipating waiting and voting again on that? Or when is he getting the trailers to get the people out of the buildings?
Mr. Mayor?
Just as a
Go ahead.
process, I don't understand the process.
My biggest concern was that we were paying too much. That's why I would like, and I know when Mr. Shanahan went back last time, they knew we were going to vote on this. And I think they had that in the back of their mind. So now he's going to go back after a negative vote. So hopefully he will make some progress there. And then any one of us three who voted no can bring this up for reconsideration. So that could possibly be the next step.
I'll be quick.
Okay. So now where were we?
I'm not sure there was a second on.
There was no second from Michael's amended.
Paul did. Paul seconded.
Paul did, yes, he did.
The amended one?
Yes.
Okay. So Ms. Gold,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
I guess so. I'm not sure what we're doing anymore. Sure, why not?
Pellegrino,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Okay, so that's done. There's one more thing that was added to the agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we direct our Public Works Director, which I assume that's his job, to install the appropriate signage to make the intersection of Surfside Drive and Ocean Boulevard a three-way stop sign.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of order, is this only for one reading, or is this going to be an ordinance for two readings? So one reading?
I don't think it's an ordinance, it's just a directive to do it.
The FOIA won't let you amend the agenda for an action item unless there's a finding of emergency.
Well,
So-
there's a lot of accidents and a
That's what
safety
needs-
concern down there.
So that would need to be incorporated into your motion so that council makes the finding of the emergency. You unanimously amended the agenda, that's fine, but since it's for final action and hasn't had an opportunity for comment, you have to make the finding of emergency under the FOIA.
Yeah, so, I mean, there has been significant safety concerns down at that intersection with the increased pedestrian traffic due to the pier parking lot being closed. We're seeing, as you know, we've said multiple times before, we're seeing a record number of tourists and traffic in that area. Many don't understand apparently the concept of crosswalks and right-of-way to pedestrians. There's a lot of traffic that's just rolling the stop sign that is there. So I think whether we make it a temporary measure while pier construction is underway or a permanent measure, I think for the safety of our residents and our visitors, we should put the three-way stop at Surfside Drive and Ocean Boulevard.
Chief Hoffman, do you want to chime in on this?
Mr. Mayor and council, I made this recommendation some time ago. I'll just tell you that because the pier parking lot is closed, pedestrian traffic is much higher crossing Ocean Boulevard at Surfside Drive. I would let Director Adair decide whether it would be best to be a permanent measure or a temporary measure during pier construction. But you have a lot of visitors and residents that are parking on Surfside Drive and the Yopon lots, and they're all walking over because it does seem that everybody wants to be close to the construction, maybe to see it going on, I don't know. But there's a lot of people crossing that crosswalk right there. So I do think that there's a danger there to pedestrians the three-way stop. I think I might be mistaken, but I thought that the parking committee at some time in the past, or a committee, had made a recommendation to make that a three-way stop at that particular intersection. I do think it would be in the best interest of public safety.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman, Chief Hoffman, that is, we own that road now, so that we don't have to check with the state. Is that correctly?
I believe we own Surfside Drive and Ocean Boulevard.
That's correct.
That's,
Both roads are on.
all right. You can make that decision and that can happen.
You don't have to check in with DOT. Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor. You don't have to do anything with DOT, correct? No, okay.
So we could do this on a temporary measure and we could ask you to come back and to let us know how it is.
Sure. There may be some signage requirements for adding stop signs as far as notifications for safety of new signs and, well, I feel sure director there and I can work together to come up with a.
And you think that a three-way stop is the way to go on that?
Well, you'd have to make it a three-way stop because you couldn't take the stop sign away at Surfside Drive where it intersects. Because you'd have to regulate that traffic there. But I do think a three-way stop is prudent based on the number of pedestrians that are crossing there. It would slow traffic down enough on the north and southbound traffic on Ocean Boulevard to get people to notice your pedestrians crossing there.
And are there crosswalks on all three
Yes, sir. Yes,
intersections
Mr. Mayor.
across?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And I second the motion.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion before we vote on it? Ms. Coles?
Yes.
Holder?
Yes.
Keating?
Yes.
Pellegrino?
Yes.
Drake?
Yes.
And myself is yes, so that's 6-0. Next thing is public comments. And these are public comments on town services and business conducted. Yes, sir.
I know everyone is tired. My name is Anusha Shifter. I live at 813 North Ocean Boulevard. First, thank you, Mr. Shanahan, to provide this update about the pier. I hope it's not a one-off and you provide that on a monthly basis. You know, it's a large project, large cost, and we need to know more about it. You know. Yes, sir. Thank you. Living on a public access, I had the opportunity to talk to hundreds of people coming to 4th of July visiting our town. The majority of people were saying what a clean community this place is, how the streets are clean, especially in North Ocean Boulevard, South Ocean Boulevard, how our beaches were such a clean place. So thank you to Mr. Deere and his team, and also how everyone felt safe to leave their family, their belongings, while they go for a walk. Again, thank you to Chief Hoffman and his team. They provided such an environment that everyone enjoyed with less fighting or anything. So again, he did a great job. I guess everyone was very pleased the way that they had the opportunity to spend their 4th of July holidays in this town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia Maglia at 104 Harbor Lights Drive. Thank you. Okay, so between the two necessary decisions about where we're going to house our workers for safety, first and foremost, this is a safety issue. I myself am allergic to mold, not just black mold, but all kinds. And yeah, I have trouble breathing and I have trouble with a bunch of other symptoms. So this is definitely a safety issue you shouldn't take lightly. It's not an inconvenience to these workers. But we have two options. And the one option is to practically get into a turnkey ready situation, which pretty much you have a budget for this. And pretty much your budget is set for this. You don't have to waste money on trailers. You just put them over there. Now, people will say, we don't want to buy that building, but wait a minute. Just because we buy it and use it doesn't mean we have to keep it forever or get rid of this land forever, because this land that we are on now is valuable. That land is ready, necessary, safe, turnkey, and it has a budget that's pretty much set in stone. Sure, we like the other idea of building, but our country and shipping and price of gasoline has changed dramatically in the past several months, and it's only probably going to get worse. Fuel prices have increased to ship things. If you're going to hugely build something new, you're not going to have a guaranteed budget within certain parameters. You don't know how much the cost of fuel to move these building materials is going to increase. You don't have a cost that's set in stone about everything to build besides lumber and electrical equipment. You may even have shipping delays in this new building you want to build that will keep the place not being built on time, being built over budget by a lot of money, and the delays will give you further budget. We could do a kind of reconciliation, a kind of compromise. There's no reason why we can't do a compromise. We could actually take access of that building now. That is on good real estate. We could buy it, put our people there for safety, use it, and then not make it be the permanent place forever for us to meet, but use it as long as we need to. Go about figuring out what we want to do to build, what's expensive, but maybe in another year or so, the price of gas will come down, shipping costs will come down, lumber won't be in short supply, we won't be getting all our building materials from China. As a house owner, I was looking today at things around the house, and a lot of people are having trouble with their painting their houses because of bad drywall that comes from China. I mean, you really need to understand that in order to do a big project, we need to be able to count on supply, demand, and cost. This has a set cost pretty much, and it doesn't need to be forever. And this has a cost that could rise dramatically and have delays, and it could be sketchy, which means our people are going to be stuck in trailers longer, which also incurs more cost and really lowers morale of employees in trailers. So please, I don't see why we can't come together on this. Take advantage of that, use it, they'll be safe, and then we can come up with a comprehensive plan, which would be even better than what you said tonight, and know that there's at least some cost containment. Because in our country, with what we've gone through, I got you, things could change dramatically in a year for the better for a big project. Thank you.
Judy Hanyon, 11th Avenue North. I want to apologize to the residents because when I spoke to you earlier, I said I thought there was enough common sense up there to make a common math problem. And the common math problem was the building itself was almost turnkey, cost less. And now, instead of putting 1.7 million into real estate that is only going to appreciate, we're going to go out and we're going to rent trailers. How wonderful. That money we won't recover. Then we might lose the building because of this wonderful decision you've made. Because why do you think you can play hardball with someone that already has an offer on the table for more money? Please explain that to us. We really would love to hear the answer. I mean, a little math problem. And now you're going to turn it into a huge liability issue. How does that make sense? It doesn't. So I apologize to all the residents for assuming we had enough common sense to make a good decision.
Carol Lucas, 524 Cypress Drive. I don't understand why there's one option you all haven't looked at. The huge sign in front of the building says sale or lease. It doesn't say sale, it says sale or lease. What about even lease option to buy? I mean, it's not just a cut and dry. You have to buy it and own it. And then I like the idea of.
We tried that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
They didn't want to.
I think that the lease option needs to be looked at. I don't know if it would cost less than those trailers that are so offensive.
Addressed it.
But I mean, the sign has been there from day one. It's been there over a year.
They don't want to.
Yeah, you didn't notice?
I noticed it. I actually asked about it and they want to sell it.
Yeah, I've been in the building.
Mhm.
My realtor's there. That stairway going up to the second floor, stuff like that. Yeah.
They don't.
Mr. Pellegrino's reference to how many hundreds of $1,000s it would take to renovate it. It's probably, you're the businessman, I don't know those things, but it's not just the cut. 1,000, million, and then 500. It's the renovations and so forth. But I really think that I just sold a property. Everybody's playing hardball right now. So play harder, and so what if we rent it for a year? Take some time to think about it, and give them a good enough offer that they're willing to take a lease option to buy after a year. Just buy some time. I don't know if they'll think about it, but
I asked.
yeah. Maybe ask again when they got the no vote, maybe that'll shake them loose a little bit, but.
We're going to try again. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not a wheeler dealer real estate person, but that sign caught my attention. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jerry Bibbert. I live at 721 Plantation Drive, which I know is Horry County, but I work in Surfside. I am a commercial insurance agent at Moore and Associates. For a long time, I have quoted the insurance pier since it was bought. They asked me to quote the property for the pier. I quoted it. It was over $100,000. This was in 2009. And I was told that was too much. That FEMA would probably replace it. So anyway, I continued every year at renewal to quote the property. Still too much. When the pier got destroyed, and the only reason I'm here is for Facebook comments that have been made about Sammy Truitt. He didn't quote that insurance. I did. My name was on it. I've had the insurance, like I say, since they bought it from Scalise. So when it was destroyed, we had to change the insurance up a little bit because you couldn't walk on the pier anymore. And at one point, I had trouble getting insurance, just liability for the restaurant and the part of the pier where you could stand. But we got it. I was asked to quote the pier for the builder's risk. And I worked diligently on it. And when Orion got the bid, I had no problems whatsoever. I had a bid. And I submitted it on a timely basis, made sure it got stamped in on the right time. Then Orion lost it to Consensus. It was put out there again for another builder's risk quote. So I went back at it again. I had a lot of issues getting information that I needed to get a quote. But finally I got it. And it was from the builder. It was from the GC. One of his response was, you don't need all that information to get a quote. I let him know that I was an assistant underwriter at one time. Yes, I do need this information. So I got a quote. Then I was told to increase it because Consensus didn't put in for the concrete. So I did that. And every time it went out for bid, I gave a proposal. I changed that proposal 5 times. And then after I lost the bid, which is fine, it's fine. I was told that our agency was ripping off the town of Surfside for over $200,000 because the town bought a builder's risk policy from Consensus Broker, who's out of Virginia. He's not local. And for the Freedom of Information Act, I requested all emails that were pertaining to the pier from council people to the builder and to anybody else that had emails about the bid. And in one of the email, it said that builders risk are a strange animal, and I don't think they're capable of doing it. Okay, I'll let that ride. So I got an email this morning saying they couldn't give me a copy of the builder's risk policy that Consensus bought because Consensus bought it. Where's the town? Consensus does not have an insurable interest in the pier. They have an insurable interest in the money that they would make on the pier, but not the pier. They are paying for the cost that it would take contractors to get paid. They're not paying for the material. And until I get a copy saying they did, I'm still going to say that that policy is not correct. And I read the contract. I have a copy of the contract from Consensus. I know it's time. I know, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Consensus didn't have to buy a builder's risk policy. All they're required to do is to buy a policy that would cover their expense, which is their payroll, their sub cost. Doesn't cover any of your materials. And now I wish that people would retract all the Facebook comments that I overcharged the town of Surfside. Thank you.
Chris Stamey, 715 Cedar North. This building across the road that y'all keep talking about is that building. I've been over and looked at the building. I think it's the worst place in the world to get in and out of for traffic. You've not got a good entrance into that building. But I do think that you ought to pursue leasing, or because I'm like the lady said back here, that big old sign out front says sell or lease. Make them an offer, make them something that they can, maybe will sell on leasing. You don't have to have a trailer. We don't have to have trailers out here. There's some other places around that I would think that would be capable of housing our employees. But on the other hand, the other week, matter of fact, 6 weeks ago, I asked the question, is our employees in danger of mold? I was told at that time that they're in the best possible situation that they can be. We've moved them all into one space to keep them from getting sick. I think the first thing you ought to do is get them out. Put them somewhere, find somewhere. Use the top of the fire department. Get them out of mold. That building's like a fire. If it was on fire, they'd get you out. The mold is going to hurt somebody. Not only the lawsuit, I'd hate to see any one of you get sick from that building. That would be worse than the lawsuit that the town would receive, because I wouldn't want to see you sick. But I think Mr. Shanahan would look around, maybe some other places, and on the other, and find out if we can lease something. We don't have to have trailers. We could try to lease something. But I also, on this pier bid and the swash down here, that swash was supposed to have been done 2 months ago. We fell under some problems. This contractor undoubtedly didn't have the stuff to fix it. So we're giving them another 2 months extension to fix this swash. Is it costing us more money? Are we buying the drill bit to drill into this rock? That they saved us $500,000. That was the story when they got this bid. They're saving the town $500,000. Is it saving us now, or are we paying that other $500,000 to them? I'd like to know. And besides that, one other thing. Since we so good, some of you in Consensus are so good, maybe we ought to ask Consensus to build us a new town hall for half price. Thanks. So that's $250 million. Yes.
Beth Coleman, 10th Avenue North. I keep forgetting where I moved to. I just want to start off, last meeting you weren't at, and I know that it's just a stormwater fee that's small to you, but you're a businessman. We all own houses, we own vehicles. It's our responsibility as adults, and I think that's what you would tell your children as you're raising them up. Like, you're going to be an adult someday, you're going to get a car, you're going to get a tax bill with that car, and you get a motorcycle, you're paying the tax on that motorcycle. So when you get your mail, you should be responsible enough to open every piece. You choose to be irresponsible, not read what you get in the mail, which is what happened at my office. It was an honest mistake. And again, mistakes are made, but there are penalties for a reason. I'm hoping my staff now knows not to make that mistake again. But if it's coming out of your pocket in your home, or in that case, that nonprofit, they're going to think twice. They're going to open their mail now. Maybe they'll be responsible, but don't reward people for being irresponsible. So I, for one, hope that this stormwater fee crap, excuse my language if I offended anybody, is over and done with. And when you vote, it's done. You vote, you win, you lose, it's over. Bringing it back is irritating. And giving back the funds is not going to solve it. And if you do that, I don't want mine back. I want whatever fees were paid and penalties to go into stormwater, which is where they belong. And I really feel sorry for all of you, especially you, with the building situation. People are coming up here and telling you, I want those people moved right away, but they don't want you to have the opportunity to move them safely. They want what they want. They want you to spend more money so that they can go on Facebook and say, you're spending $5 million. Why is it taking so long? We don't want our taxes to go up, but we want what we want. Sorry if you can't take your golf cart across for a temporary time, but if you buy something like that, and I'm not an expert, I don't even know. I do know you've been searching for more than what people realize. It's not like you woke up yesterday and said, oh, we need to do something. You've been thinking about it. And for those of you who forget, there was mold in that building when I was on council. It's a long time ago. So don't blame them. Excuse me, I'm speaking. But don't blame them for things that have happened in the past and see everybody jumping up and down back then saying, oh, we have to move all the workers. That didn't happen. Now all of a sudden it's important. But let them do their job without yelling at them and yelling at each other about it and interrupting each other. I appreciate what you're doing, and I don't know if you're going to make the right decision or not, but I wouldn't want to have to be up there making it right now with the atmosphere and what's going on and the misinformation that's been really, really swirling around out there. But I appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
There any other public comments? All right, so now we'll go on with town council discussion and comments, and we'll start out with Ms. Scholes.
Thanks, everyone that came this evening. I appreciate all the comments that were given regarding hot topics that are going on in the town. I understand the severity of mold. I had someone in my family exposed to mold that ended up with lifetime repercussions from it. I do not want to put our employees at jeopardy, but I think that we need to be a little more cautious instead of just going out and purchasing. I asked about the lease originally, and I was told they really don't want a lease. Well, then they shouldn't have it on their sign. Either you want to sell or lease, whatever you want to do, it should be up there. My concern is that building, moving it, we can't just move into it today. I mean, it's got renovation that's got to be done. We can't have council chambers in there or court in there. We don't have ample parking in there. It doesn't just happen overnight. there's plenty of other places we can start looking for lease. If anyone knows of anything, contact the town administrator and let him know that I don't want to put them in trailers, but we want to keep them safe. I want to thank each one of our departments in this town. They work profusely to keep us safe, to keep us clean. And all of the employees in town hall, answering all the questions, planning events, keeping our finances straight. That is huge, especially right now. So I would like to thank everybody that came tonight and spoke, and the employees, our town administrator, and look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.
Mr. Holder.
Yes, I'd like to thank for everybody that came out tonight and also on the radio to hear it. And I'd like to make one comment since his picture's over there. Tom, it was nice getting the award. 19 years ago, we lost Tom. And it's hard. He's still like a brother. He's my brother-in-law, but it's like a brother to me. So it's nice that he has been appreciated. So thank you. But I want to thank everybody for all the comments you made tonight. Everybody, we've got a lot of different opinions in this room, and it's divided just like the whole town is divided on this issue. And got a lot of calls on it. And so hopefully we can get a better price on it and we'll be able to do something. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Keating.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for coming out. It's nice to see a full room once again. We haven't had that for quite some time, so I appreciate you taking your time to participate in the meeting. I'm not going to go over, we've handled some very contentious issues tonight, and I appreciate everybody's perspective. Hopefully we can make some modifications and come to some agreement on some middle road such that we can move forward in a fiscally responsible way and not be wasteful when there are other alternatives available to us. But on a lighter note, I would like to just remind everybody that next Saturday, the 22nd of July, is another beach sweep, and it takes place in the evening from 6 to 8. So Keep Surfside Beach Beautiful is sponsoring another beach sweep for this month on Saturday, July 22nd from 6 to 8. So be sure to participate if you can. Thank you.
Mr. Pellegrino.
Thanks for coming. It is nice to see a full house tonight. I don't think we've had a full house since before COVID, a long time ago. So thank you for your participation. Thanks for coming. Thanks to the people listening online, and your involvement helps our town every day. So thank you.
Mr. Drake.
Well, thank everybody for coming out tonight. Nice to see everybody in a full house, as David said, and thank people on the online service for tuning in. Just like to keep everybody in mind that the previous years ago with the building, did some research, and Shanahan brought that to our attention too, that the mold issue in that building has been going on for a long time. It was repaired for $50,000 for the repairs. But guess what they didn't do? They didn't fix the problem. They cleaned the mold, but they didn't fix the problem. So you had $50,000 down the toilet. And here we are again today discussing it. Mr. Shanahan, leased the building? I think Mr. Shanahan did that. They were not interested in leasing the building at all. Now, why they have a sign that says that, I don't know. But they don't want to lease it. They want to sell it. So we'll go back again, and I hope we are successful in doing something with that. If not, maybe we can come up and have another vote. That'd be nice. But it'd be just sad to see two trailers parked out front of Surfside Drive. I mean, out here on the 17. Looking at that and then running sewer and power and all that to put employees in. Look terrible. But we have to hope for the best. But anyway, thank you all for coming out here tonight, and we'll have a better day. Thank you.
All right, we do have a full house tonight, and we had a very controversial agenda. We got all through of it. A lot of it had to do with transparency and had to do with having the residents involved, you know, where we talked about we're going to do the tree ordinance. We're going to have a public hearing first. That's what we needed to do the first time. And the part about the police department and the different rules. A lot of them are good, a lot of them are bad, but there are some people like the tow companies that didn't get their voice when we put it together. So we're going to do that. And we're going to have a public hearing on that too. And the same with the building. We're going to work on it, but you got to realize there's a lot of issues that we're dealing with right now that are a lot of hardcore issues. And, you know, they say that we just took a vote not to raise our millage. Okay. But Horry County raised their millage. So our taxes are going to go up. It's just our Surfside Beach taxes are not going to go up. So we're trying to be conservative. We're trying to do it the right way. And it, you know, it takes time in what we're doing. So I'm hopeful that you guys will bear with us and have a little confidence in us that we're going to do the right thing. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I want, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm gonna change the whole subject. I want to brag about our guys. On Wednesday during the storm, about 9 o'clock in the morning, Acting Chief Larry Carter came to my house, picked me up, and started driving me around the town so we could see what was going on. And I watched public work, working the butts off. I watched them picking up trees. I saw them dealing with sinkholes. I saw them dealing with water. I saw my police guys out there. I saw them stop checking on people. I saw them driving around. I saw them getting out their vehicles. And they did an amazing job. It's my first major storm here. And really, really impressed how professional our guys are. And more important than that, how much they care about this community and how much they care about each and every one of you. So you got some good guys working for you, and I thank them for what they did.
Thank you. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Well, we have to go to executive session.
So we still have executive session
5
tonight?
minutes.
Okay, we are going to go into executive session. I need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, Section 30-7 or -4-70A2, discussion of negotiations incident to the proposed contractual arrangements.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have to give you a hard time.
Okay, and let's take a vote. Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Keating,
Yes.
Pellegrino,
Yes.
Drake,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So you all are welcome to wait and with the results of our
Outside.
executive session.
This conference will now be recorded.
We didn't even do anything.
We've never had this many people stay for after executive session.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Hold on. It's 10:09 and we're back.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reconvene the public session of the town council meeting of July 13th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there were no motions relating to executive session. So we're concluded with our business for the evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll say aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Elise.